What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey, episode number 78, presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinny Parisi, and I am extremely craving a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And this right here, this is Frankie Mueller, and he can't even name all original six teams that are on his hat in the order that they came out. Frank, how you doing?
I'm doing great. What made you? Why are you craving a peanut butter and jelly?
I've been
make sense.
obsessed. We'll get to this later, but I've been obsessed with the idea of jam lately. All different sorts of flavor of jam. I know we got a guest waiting in the wings, but really quickly before we bring him on, can you name the original six teams in order?
Could try. Is it Montreal?
I
First,
have a guess. I don't even know for sure.
I'm going to say Montreal, Toronto, Chicago.
Nope. That I know for sure. Boston's the first American one. I'm pretty sure it's Montreal, Toronto, Boston, New York, Detroit, Chicago. I'm pretty sure.
And well, maybe our guest knows.
We have someone who might be able to answer that question. Of course, we're talking about the great Blackhawks reporter for the Bleacher Nation. Of course, that is Tab Bamford. Tab, how you doing?
Oh, I'm working on it, boys. How are you?
Very good, very good. Before we get into my first question, can you name the original six teams in order that they became franchises? I think I might have had it, but I'm not.
Without cheating, I'd have to go back and look at Montreal and Toronto. Toronto was the St. Pat's before they became the Maple Leafs. So I do have some question about whether or not which one of those came first. But and I think the Rangers may have come slightly before Boston, but Chicago being 6 out of 6, I do believe 6 out of 6? Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I know Chicago.
Because there were other teams that tried and failed before the Blackhawks arrived in 1926.
Yeah, I thought Boston was the first American one. I was pretty confident about that, but now you got me making me second guess myself. So I don't know, but we'll find out.
And I don't want to cheat, so I don't want to go look. But
yeah, no, I'll cheat while you're answering one of Frankie's questions. But before we get into it. Last night, the Chicago Blackhawks had their first preseason game. You were in attendance. Were you at all surprised at how many of the NHL regulars were in the lineup?
I really wasn't. The Blackhawks need butts and seats, which didn't work very well last night. But here's the other thing, and this is what I really appreciate about Luke Richardson's approach so far. He doesn't want to saddle kids with too much too soon. And they've got 3 kids specifically. They would have 5, but Paul Ludwinski and Colton Dock are still working their way out of concussion protocol. But they've got 3 kids that are probably going to go back to their junior teams in the not-too-distant future. Samuel Savoie, not Savoy. We had an argument about that in the press box. It is Savoie. A nice Denny Savard tip of the cap there. Ethan Del Mastro and their top pick from this summer, Kevin Korchinski. And they wanted to get all 3 of them into the lineup as quickly as they could so that those guys can go back to their junior teams. And so they had Del Mastro and Korchinski skating with veterans last night. And then they had Alex Vlasic skating with Seth Jones. So Caleb Jones got to hang out with Ethan Del Mastro for a while. And Connor Murphy got to hang out with Kevin Korchinski for a bit. So I wasn't really surprised. Luke Richardson knows that this is a work in progress. He's not lying to anybody that they're going to go win the Stanley Cup this year, but he also wants to make sure that he's installing his systems. New coach, new front office, totally new systems. He wants to make sure that he gets them installed. So I think you're going to see a pretty good mix of top 6, bottom 6. It looks like tonight he's focusing more on bottom 6 guys. Like Jujhar Khaira, Sam Lafferty, those guys, Reese Johnson are all getting run in Detroit tonight, with Lucas Reichel getting the jump at the top line center spot in Detroit. But he wants to have young guys with older guys all the way through. And so having veterans out there, I think having communicators like Taves and Kane out there helps. Having Jones and Murphy out there helps. And they're just able to kind of smooth everything over and help the kids just go play their game. So I wasn't terribly blown away that, they wanted to have the 2 icons on the ice at home as much as possible. And also just he's been consistent from the get-go that he wants to pair veterans with young guys as long as they're here.
Tab, the last time we talked to you was all the way back in May. So that's over 4 months ago, and a lot has happened since then, obviously.
Does it?
And one of the biggest things, I mean, we crowned the Stanley Cup champ. We went through the NHL draft, crazy offseason. But one of the biggest things that happened for the Blackhawks since the last time we chatted was the hire of Luke Richardson, their coach. Do you like the hire? Do you think he makes it through the so-called rebuild they're going through? I mean, what's your take on it all?
So first of all, you've got a first-time permanent general manager running his way through a draft. He managed the trade deadline still with the interim tag, but then he became the permanent. And so his first big move before all the trades this summer was needing to figure out what he's doing from a head coaching perspective. Obviously, that hire was going to be something that took a lot of consideration, and there needed to be conversations with whomever got that job about where they were at very realistically and what was going to happen. I am absolutely full on the Luke Richardson bandwagon right now. I think they nailed it. As far as like, if I'm grading like best move, worst move in between for GM Kyle Davidson, hiring Luke Richardson's number one at the top of the list with a massive like missile shooting up everything that you can possibly have, arrows going in the right direction. This is a guy that played 1,400 games in the NHL. He is a defensive-minded guy. When you look at the staff that he surrounded himself with, Kevin Dean stealing him from Boston was huge. I think those two together, as you start integrating young defensemen, is going to be enormous for the Blackhawks, especially when you look at where the next wave is going to come from. It's primarily on the blue line because they've got most of their young, really good, high-skill forwards just coming out of this past draft, with the exception of Lucas Reichel. The top crust of their forward prospects are all probably going to be college or juniors this year. So he hired a great coaching staff. He's been a tremendous communicator. Like I said, he's not lying to anybody saying that they're going to win the Stanley Cup. He didn't lie last night post-game and say, man, it really sucks to lose. I thought we had that one. He owned it. And he was like, look, it's going to be a learning curve. I'm putting in a completely different penalty kill. I'm putting in a completely different power play. We've got half of the guys that would be on those units not here right now. So it's going to be a work in progress. But I know from speaking with guys in the room, talking to people around the organization, that the players could not be happier about having him. He is the contradiction to what Jeremy Colton was, that Chicago players, fans, everyone had been craving. And for this to be his first crack at it, I think the fact that he's coming in very realistically, knowing that his expectations are to build culture and not win, is great. And it's kind of awkward. We've talked about this in the media room. Like, this is a guy that really has no pressure whatsoever to win, which is crazy for a first-time head coach. But I think he's going to do a good job. I think the Blackhawks will surprise a few people along the way this year. They're going to be hard to play against. They're going to play fast, as fast as they can. And I just think when you look at the way that he talks to players, he skates all the conditioning stuff at the end of practice during training camp. He's out there doing the laps with the guys. Looks like he could probably still give you 12 minutes a night, which at some point this year the Blackhawks might need him to do. But no, I absolutely love the hire. I think he's going to do a tremendous job. And I don't think that this is throwing a baseball reference out there. I don't think this is a Ricky Renteria babysit until it's time to go and then go find the right guy. I think Luke Richardson is a guy that can help develop the character in the room, build the culture of the organization, and then take it the next step when the talent's there and they get the fun, spend money time in a couple years to go out and really put a finished product on the ice and really go after it. So I think Luke Richardson was a brilliant hire. I love it, and I can't wait to watch what this guy does with an evolving roster, because I think he's the right guy for the job.
After a quick Google search while you were talking there, Montreal Canadiens 09, Toronto 17, Boston 24, and then Detroit, Chicago, and New York all 26. So there you go. There you go.
Well, fun fact for you, the Wirtz family was actually minority owners of Detroit at one point.
Oh, I did not know that.
They were bought out of their stake in the Red Wings and purchased the Blackhawks. which then the dominoes fell when they bought out some of their minority owners, and those individuals went and bought the expansion franchise in St. Louis.
There you go. Some fun
So
facts coming at you from Tab.
Yeah, there you go.
Tab, I'm watching the game last night. The St. Louis Blues also had a fair amount of NHL players in their group, and that was a little surprising. It's kind of becoming a theme around the league. I've noticed a lot of these teams are starting off right out the bat, where last year was like the entire lineup was who's this guy for all 32 teams. Now it seems like guys are starting to play a little bit more early, and because of that, I was extremely impressed with the way that Kevin Korchinski played. He's going up against some of these St. Louis Blues players. Patrick Kane found him in front on a very nice pass that only like 5 or 6 people in the league can make, as you pointed out in one of the articles today. I was stunned by how fast he looked, how smooth he looked. What was your takeaway from Korchinski's game?
This kid's got jets. He's going to be a dude. Okay. Watching him. So I've been able to watch him at development camp back in July. And he looked like, and look, the Blackhawks drafted 4 speed. I've been covering the Blackhawks for 15 years, and that was the fastest development camp that I've watched in probably a decade. Okay. So they've got some guys that can motor. You've got some sports cars out there, right? But we're talking like Jaguars and Mercedes, and he's a Lambo. Okay. This kid's got another gear, and he hits it really fast. His instincts are next level. I mean, he was trying stuff at development camp with all the other prospects that you're watching it from the press area or in the stands, and you're like, if he's doing that with NHL talent, damn. Like, that's not hitting because you've got a 19-year-old on the receiving side that isn't used to stuff coming like that. That rush that you're talking about last night, he hit the Jets at the opposite blue line and put himself in a position by beating everyone on the ice to the spot, and then just barely missed on what would have been an insane tap in. Again, on a pass from Patrick Kane that, you know, you can count on one hand the number of people on the planet that can conceive of it, much less pull it off. But there were other plays last night where, you know, Connor Murphy pinches a guy against the wall, the puck gets past him. He just shows up out of nowhere and takes the puck and gets it out of harm's way. His speed plays. Watched him against the Minnesota Wild prospects at the Prospect Showcase a couple weeks back. He was the fastest guy there for either team. And it really wasn't close. But when you watch these stair steps, you watch a development camp, all kids. Okay. 7th overall pick, you kind of should. Prospect Showcase, you've got some kids there that have played in junior that have pro contracts. You've got some guys that may or may not be in Rockford this year. So you've got guys, you know, he's playing against guys like Marco Rossi for Minnesota. So guys that are this close, if not there, okay? He's still the fastest dude on the ice. And now he steps up against an NHL team. Like you said, look, Nick Leddy's out there. Ryan O'Reilly's out there. Luke Schen's out there. You've got probably, you know, maybe a third of their NHL roster on the ice. And this cat still looks like he's the fastest dude there. And he's able to pull stuff off. And the kid, he isn't obnoxious with his confidence. It isn't like a cockiness, but there's a swagger to this kid's game that's going to play really well. And so just watching him in practices, watching him always talking to the coaches, learning from the older guys, you know, sitting there just listening to Connor Murphy talk, he gets it. And so everyone that kind of sat back and second guessed and said, well, what the hell do the Blackhawks only get that much for Alex DeBrincat from Ottawa? And then, you know, you read and find out and talk to people and learn that the Blackhawks identified Korchinski as their have-to-have in the draft and felt that they needed to be in the top 10 to make that happen. And when Philly pulled out, the only option they really had left was Ottawa. And Ottawa knew that, so now they have leverage and the Blackhawks don't. But they got that 7th pick specifically to get Korchinski because he was the guy that they needed to have. You're starting to see why. And you've heard whispers about he's a 6'3" Cale Makar. There's work to do on the defensive end of the rink to be that guy. But when you go back and look at Makar, when he jumped onto the ice the first time and the speed that he played at and the offense that he brought to the table, you can see the comps. Again, I'm not saying he's Cale Makar and he's going to come save the world and they're going to win a cup in 2 years because of him. But because there's no Landeskog and there's no McKinnon here, but or anything else for that matter. But this is a kid that's got a crazy motor. His acceleration is elite. His instincts are elite, and I think that he's going to be a really fun kid to watch progress. But he's going to complicate things for the new front office because they've spoken at length about wanting to give these kids an appropriate amount of time to develop, so they're not coming up too quickly like they've done with so many kids like Kirby Doc, not Colton. Guys like Adam Boquist, guys that just got thrown in because he needed them because they were high pick and they're going to sell jerseys. You want him to develop. But this kid had enough sex appeal on the ice last night that when he dominates the living crap out of junior this year, do you give him a look at the end of the year? Do you see what he's got? Do you start the year with a couple games and then send him back to junior? Or do you let him finish the season in Rockford and then give him a good long summer to get it, put some more grown-up pounds on and center his game and then see what he looks like in training camp next year? But the way he played last night against, again, a third or half of St. Louis's lineup, he's going to make it hard on him to be patient because he looks like he wants to be there and it's a roster that could use it.
Yeah, I really like what I've seen from Korchinski this year. Ever since they drafted him, I keep telling Vinny how excited I am. I can't wait to see him on the ice. I loved what I've seen from him. Last night when I was watching the game, he looked great. Gutman looked great. Overall, I thought the Hawks looked great, even though they lost 4-1. I like the way they were moving out there on the ice. I like what I saw from Taves. Taves had a good feed from Kane, almost put it in the back of the net. So, yeah, even though they lost, I really liked what I've seen overall from them so far through their first game. But what was your biggest takeaway from that game last night?
I think one of the big takeaways for me was that these young kids can play. You brought up Cole Gutman, and this is a kid that you look at him on the ice, and I'm going to say this respectfully. He's not – there's nothing – you watch Korchinski skate, and you're like, damn. You watch Gutman just kind of skate around in circles, getting loose and go through the drills, and you're like, okay. He's a hockey player. 5'11", in that 190, 200 range. But then you go back and watch tape of him in college, and this is a kid that was the captain of Denver's national championship team. He's got the character piece. He knows how to win. He's got the pedigree. He's been really well coached up at DU. And he just gets it. When you talk to Luke Richardson about him, he's like, this is a guy that knows where to play. He's always between the circles. He's hard to play against. And where did he score from last night? He found an open patch of ice right in front of the net. Buddy Robinson, who looks like a gigantor version of Dion Phaneuf, finds him with an easy pass and he taps it in. And look, he wasn't here for development camp because he hadn't signed yet because he was still a Tampa Bay prospect at that point. But at the prospect showcase practices, like, how is this kid always in the right spot scoring goals? You got all this speed, and he's like the least impressive guy. And he's always there, and he's always doing the right thing. And he's a guy that has really impressed the living crap out of me. And look, he won half of his faceoffs last night, had 4 shots on goal. I really like him. I'm way through the roof high on Ethan Del Mastro. He got caught flat-footed a couple times last night, but this is a guy that played for Canada in the World Juniors, won a gold medal. He's playing with a bunch of guys that, that Canada team could probably give this Blackhawks team fits, just because they're all first-rounders and Connor Bedard. So he's used to playing with speed. He's a big physical guy. For the nobody in the free world that was around watching guys like Brent Seabrook when they were babies, a guy like Dion Phaneuf when they were teenagers coming into the league. Reminds me of that a lot. He knows how to play the body. He's a physical guy. There were a couple tweets during the World Juniors that he just wiped a family off the face of the earth kind of a thing with his hits. He's a physical dude. And so when you look at these young guys, you're like, okay, I see where we're going here. But then looking at some of they won't be here this year. They're not going to be Blackhawk. Maybe Gutman gets some run at some point, but Del Mastro will be back in junior. He's going to be the captain of Mississauga, and Korchinski's going to go back. I really like, I think, what I saw too from the Athanasio Domi Kane line. They're going to be fast. And if Domi and Athanasio can finish anything, they're going to put up points and raise their trade value collectively. Because 1-year deals, rent, don't buy, kids. But the biggest takeaway was that the kids can play. The number 2 was Luke Richardson knows what he's doing. And his post-game press conference, he owned it. He's overhauling the penalty kill. The penalty kill was bad last year. It needs to be fixed. Blackhawks gave up 3 power play goals last night, so they were break even at 5-on-5. But Richardson said these are correctable things. Now we've got stuff on tape that we can clip and look at. Guy overextended. We were duplicating in certain situations. One person was out of position. So now we can draw it up on the whiteboard, look at tape, and see what the results are when we're out of position and coach to that. So I was greatly encouraged last night that they hung around with a St. Louis team that I think most people expect to be in that mix with Minnesota to be second in the division behind Colorado. And for a team that really, Kane, Taves, Jones, and Murphy were the only 4 guys that had played together at any point in an actual NHL game. I thought that they looked pretty good. I won't say really good. I won't say great. But I thought they looked pretty good because this chemistry is going to be a work in progress until the end of the preseason. It's also worth noting that was St. Louis's 4th preseason game, and it was the first for the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
So they've got veterans that already have their wheels under them, and the Blackhawks were just getting a touch. So, but I thought, it's a 4-1 loss, but there was a lot to be encouraged by last night.
Absolutely. And so I'm watching the game. I'm looking at the goaltenders, and we made it this long without mentioning goaltending, which is kind of funny.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Reflex.
Soderblom, we're probably gonna see him marinate in the AHL for most of the season and use Mrazek and Stalock at the NHL level is my assumption. Of course, Soderblom might get called up here and there. There's injuries, whatnot. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's a good idea? Like, what's your takeaway from the goaltending situation as we head into this season?
Well, again, the front office wants to be patient and let guys marinate the right amount of time. I thought Soderblom was going to be in the mix for the 1 or 2 spot this year. When they traded for Mrazek, I was like, okay, so if he's going to, in Blackhawks terms, if he's going to be the Marty Turco to Soderblom's Corey Crawford, okay, I get it. Go get a veteran that can give you, 45 games if you need him to, but hopefully he doesn't need to because Soderblom will grab it. Then they went and signed Stalock. I was like, what the hell are we doing? And then I took a step back, exhaled, had a sip of water, and lit a fresh cigar and realized that nothing is greater tank insurance than the goaltending tandem of Peter Mrazek and Alex Stalock. I think you'll see plenty of Arvid Soderblom at the NHL level this year because if you look at the back of the hockey cards for Mrazek and Stalock, neither one of them has stayed healthy in about 10 years, right? And neither one of them is very good. So, but look, Stalock wants to keep playing. This is a huge opportunity for him to get some ice. Mrazek wants to prove that he can still play in the NHL and that he can stay healthy. They're going to give him a chance to do that. And that's where the Blackhawks are at right now. They are in rent guys and give them an opportunity to show that they can do it and then go sell them to somebody that needs them to do it the way that they did it here. And so they've both got a good opportunity, but I do think you'll see plenty of Soderblom this year just because the reality is both of the guys that they have on veteran contracts have a history of not being able to stay healthy. And when the time comes that they need to have a second goaltender, I'm sure he'll find his way up because they've got other guys. They signed Jackson Stauber out of Providence to fill in one of the spots down in Rockford. They've got a couple other young guys on AHL contracts. So they've got plenty of bodies in net until Drew Comesso, hopefully signs after his junior year at Boston University and throws the whole thing in the blender. But I think they're okay with depth, but those 2 guys being your primary NHL goaltenders is definitely filed under tank insurance.
Yeah, so another game I was watching last night, it was the Wild in Colorado. I was keeping track of it, and it seemed like every time the Wild went on the power play, they just kept scoring and scoring. Their first 3 goals were all on the power play. It made me think of how the Hawks power play is going to be this year. I know last year they finished 21st in the league. And I think they're bringing back 4 or so players that scored a power play goal from last year this year. Does that improve this year? I mean, how's that going to look? Because I think if they want to be any sort of exciting, it would have to improve a little bit at least.
Well, there's two parts to that. If they want to be any kind of exciting, the excitement that the Blackhawks want is Connor Bedard in June next year.
Me too.
At bare minimum, I think
I agree.
it's either Bedard or Fantilli. So if the power play sucks, there's a method to the madness. The reality is that they are going to have a dramatically different look. Luke Richardson's changing the way that group functions. The top power play unit that we've seen in practice so far has been Athanasiou on the bumper with Seth Jones at the point. Taylor Radish posted up in front of the net, which is great, big size. And then obviously 88 working his usual wing spot and Max Domi on the other side. So it'll be interesting to see how that unit plays. The second unit's kind of wide open right now because Korchinski's been running the point on a lot of it, and rightfully so. But if he's not going to be on the NHL roster this year, then you're kind of like, okay, now what? My thought process was that Ian Mitchell would get some run possibly in that spot, but looks like he's going to miss the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season with a wrist injury, which absolutely sucks for that kid because I really thought that he was ready to be a 6th or 7th defenseman this year. Maybe sliding into a more prominent role with a guy like Jack Johnson and Riley Stillman fighting for the bottom minutes. He was great in Rockford last year. Actually played with Gutman at Denver collegiately. So it'll be interesting to see what that second group looks like. They've got some size. They've got some speed. I didn't say Jonathan Taves' name on the top unit, so he'll undoubtedly factor into the second group. But do they need to be better? Yeah. And you know where that starts? The blue line. Because do you guys remember how many goals they got from defensemen on the power play last year?
Was it like 0?
I thought yeah.
Big old donut, which maybe the Dunkin' Donut race will sponsor the power play this year instead of one of the power companies in town. But no, Seth Jones getting on the board would be huge, right? Or whomever's running the point for the second unit, whether it's his brother or somebody else, they need to get some production out of the blue line on the power play. And I think some of the systems that they started to install, having more traffic in front, moving the puck faster. Again, Richardson wants to play this game fast, which means they're going to skate fast. They're going to move the puck fast. They're not going to stand still. And that, I think, is going to create opportunities. But, you know, at the end of the day, they got to shoot. And I think that was the biggest problem that they've had really for the last 6 or 7 years, right? They've got Taves, Panarin, Kane, DeBrincat takes Panarin's spot. You got Duncan Keith. You've got 3 to 5 Hall of Famers working on a power play unit, and you're like 20th in the league, and everyone in Chicago is losing their minds because they can't get the puck in the net when they've got an advantage. And it's like, what the hell are we doing? Well, when you've got that much talent, sometimes you try to be too pretty, and you try to find the guy that's got the perfect shot, and sometimes it's just a volume play. Just get the damn thing on net and make something happen. Let the guy that's sitting out there looking for garbage eat. And I think that this unit, in the way that Richardson's coaching them up, is going to be a lot more get it on net and see what happens from there than pass it in a circle and hope that somebody's open.
I appreciate that answer. You brought up Connor Bedard, I think 3 times so far on the show.
Yep.
And rightfully so. I think there's a handful of teams in the NHL going into this season praying that they hit the big one and become – the big lottery winners. I'm thinking Arizona, Chicago, Philly. We'll see where other teams end up around the league. But in order to increase their chances, they're going to deplete their roster. I have anybody that's on a 1-year deal is out of here. Like Max Domi, if he has, some nice plays throughout this season and we get to February and it's like, okay, another team would like to add Max Domi to their third line.
20 goals by Valentine's Day, boys.
See you later, pal. Have fun playing with the Rangers. Go win a cup. Something like that. Does Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves fit into that for you?
That's all anybody's going to talk about this year.
All season long. It's going to be like, remember when Eric Stahl was an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year and they just
Eric Stahl was a really nice player. He's not at the icon status that either of those are.
Exactly.
Patrick Kane, in my estimation, is the greatest American-born player ever already. Jonathan Taves is still a Lock Hall of Famer, still the youngest player ever to join the Triple Gold Club. He has been captain of the Blackhawks twice as long as anyone in the history of the franchise. This is year 15 of him wearing the C. They're in vastly different places in their careers. I would not be stunned if Jonathan Taves finished the year in Chicago and hung him up. That being said, if he feels it and he likes what Richardson's putting down and he decides to stay and has a good year and feels like there's some run left in the legs, I could see him sticking around and helping with the rebuild. 88's another story. There's going to be a hotter market for him. I think if they wait until Christmas, obviously that $10.5 million cap hit becomes a lot more palatable, especially if the Hawks eat half of it. The other reality is you wait until Christmas or mid to late January, you're going to have 20 teams that think that they've actually got a chance. So there's more teams that would be interested. More teams that are able to leverage injuries to create more intriguing cap space, things of that nature. But Kane and Taves both have full no move clauses, so they will dictate the scenario. They'll tell them where they want to go. They'll tell them that they accept it, and they will be able to basically hand choose their next destination. Patrick Kane has enough game left. He's still a 90, 100-point capable guy, even in his mid-30s, that there's going to be a line around the block if that door opens and if they start answering the phones, which I've been told, even though the general manager has repeatedly said, we haven't had that talk. We haven't had that conversation. Nobody's intrigued. Nobody's asked me. From what I've heard, people have, but they're just trying to kill it and let Luke Richardson start the season and focus on that. Rightfully so. But Patrick Kane's going to make that decision for himself because I do think there will be a line around the block. You know, you look at teams that desperately want to get there. You're wearing a Devils hat. Teams that have been talking the game for a while, you know, New Jersey and Ottawa, both really a lot of people like their young nucleuses and think that they could take a step, but those divisions aren't going to make life easy for them. A lot of people are talking about Toronto, to which I say, with what cap space are they magically making it happen? Because Harry Potter isn't letting them spend 90 and everybody else spend 82 this year. So even though if they are Toronto and everybody in that city would love for that to be reality. So, you know, they don't have, you know, Victor Hedman and Kucherov sitting out for 3 months just in time to come back at 100%. So
Tavares out for a month.
Yeah,
right.
That's still not going to make enough room for 88.
No, absolutely.
No, I'm 50-50 right now that Kane gets traded during the season. And I think that's probably because there's heartstrings that he's talked enough throughout his career that he wants to chase Stan Mikita's records. He wants to only wear one jersey his entire career. He and Taves are both students of the game. They love the history of the game. They know what it means to play for one team. They both alluded to the Pittsburgh Penguins keeping Crosby, Malkin, and Letang together. Ovechkin playing his whole life in Washington. Backstrom, even though he's going to be, nowhere to be found for a bit here. They see the value in that. They want to do that. They want to be that. But if the right situation presents itself for 88 and he can go chase a ring, I don't think it's a crazy proposition that he goes. I also don't think it's unfair to think that there is a possibility, if he likes what Luke Richardson's putting down and the ping pong balls fall the right way, that Patrick Kane leaves for 2 months and possibly comes back, because the Blackhawks are spending almost no money for the next 2 years. When the report came out yesterday that, the NHL given GMs guidance about where the cap might go in 2 years, when Austin Matthews is a free agent, the Blackhawks will have about $70 million in cap space. 70, not 17, 70. They have $17.9 million on the books for the 24-25 season right now. And it's 3 defensemen. It's McCabe, Murphy, and Seth Jones. That's it. So you figure they got to spend 50 to get to the floor. They're not doing it on Kirby Dach anymore. They're not doing it on Alex DeBrincat anymore. Austin Matthews. But they might be able to, talk one or both of them into taking a parachute contract and finishing their career here. So Luke Richardson's going to be a big factor in that. How they play on the ice is going to be a big factor in that. And who ultimately steps up and meets Davidson's asking price and what that team situation looks like for Kane to get another ring, I think, is the biggest factor of all.
Yeah, March 3rd will be the 2023 trade deadline. We talk about Kane and Taves. Will they be moved? Will they not be moved? We did a lot of talk about that through many of the podcasts through last season. But if you want to include them, you can, even though you just touched on it. But besides them, I mean, how different will this team look from October 12th to March 3rd next year? There's a lot of pieces that could be moved. There's a lot of assets that could be traded. But in your opinion, how different is it actually going to look? Or is it just all, rumors and whatnot?
Depends on how they play. Athanasio at $3 million is a great value, and I think that he's got a ton of ability, but he's got to do it, right? Either he's going to go score 25 this year and get traded at the deadline, or he's Victor Stahlberg 2.0. Max Domi, look, he won 71% of his faceoffs last night against a good St. Louis team that had, again, O'Reilly in the lineup. If he can score 25 and win his faceoffs, there will be a line around the block for the kid. If he can't finish and he's back at 46% in the regular season, he'll finish the year out here. And look, Max Domi is a guy that specifically came to Chicago to play for Luke Richardson because he respects the crap out of the guy. He wanted to play for Luke Richardson. That's another game changer for the Hawks. Guys want to play for Luke Richardson because he's respected all over the league. So how different will it look? I mean, you're talking about a team right now where I'm in the press box, and I literally at practice, I have the lineup sheet in my back pocket, and I have to take it out and figure numbers out if they don't have the names on the jerseys because I'm still figuring out who everybody is. So how different is it going to look? Crazy, but it already is. There's 5 or 6 recognizable guys on this team, and the rest of it is figure it out when you're watching and guess. Talking to John Weidman, the radio guy, he's grabbing the pronunciation guide off of the NHL's media site and trying to figure out who these guys are and where they came from. So it will be totally dependent on how they play, but I do think that the Blackhawks will be incredibly active, and I don't think that waits until March 3rd. Davidson has said that he's still open for business. If someone wants something or needs to make cap space disappear, he's open for business. And so, again, I don't think he's going to wait until March 3rd to start moving some pieces around because there are going to be guys in Rockford that push for NHL ice time. There are going to be guys in Rockford that don't fit the long-term perspective that are, change of scenery would work for them, like Nicholas Beaudin, who's a former first-round pick who no one talks about because he's not even skating tonight in the second preseason game. He's going 0 for 2. He's a former first-rounder who's, I think, 22 years old, and he's a forgotten man in the organization. So you're going to see a year full of moves coming from the Chicago Blackhawks, and a lot of that is just a new front office building a team in its eyes and with players that play their way. But I also think they won't give every player away because if you look at Davidson's track record thus far, he's been focused on adding draft picks and not prospects. Mm-hmm. He wants draft capital. That's it. So, they'll add some players along the way, but I think how the guys perform will determine how different it looks on March 4th.
That makes sense, Tab. We can't thank you enough for coming on our show. It's been our pleasure to have you, giving us so much of your time. We appreciate it. We hope to have you back at some point in the middle of the season, then we'll recap the end of the year with you. We're big fans of your work over at Bleacher Nation. Before you go, tell people how they can find you and read your work.
BleacherNation.com, running the Blackhawk show there. On Twitter, I am the one Tab. So come say hi or occasionally curse at me or ask me about the lack of attendance at the United
The one and
Center.
only Tab.
Yeah, the one and only Tab. We're huge fans, and we'll be checking you out on Twitter. I'm sure we'll have plenty of dialogue all season long, and can't wait to read all your stuff and see what you do with the Blackhawks. Thank you again.
Thanks, boys. We'll talk again soon.
Awesome.
Absolutely,
Thank you,
we
Tab.
sure will. And we are going to preview the Central Division in whole in period number 2. Welcome to period 2 of Bardown Talking Hockey, presented by the Barroom Network. Give it up for Tab Bamford. Woo!
I love Tab.
See,
the thing, what I like about Tab the most is that when you ask him a question, he dives right into it. It's not like, do you think Kane and Taves will be traded at the end of the year? I mean, there's a chance. I mean, it's all they're talking about a lot, but it's 50-50. Like, he doesn't say that. He gives an in-depth answer. That's what I love, and that's what I want from our guests, and that's why he's one of my favorite people to talk to on the show.
Yeah, that's why it's very hard when he asks you to, let him go by 240 because he has other commitments. You get to 235 and you're like, okay, we got less than one question left. Let's get this show on the road.
Yeah,
baby.
I mean, but it was a great time.
Oh, absolutely. I love Tab. I read his article this morning, and, I wanted to see what his thoughts were on the game last night before we got out here and, had him on the show. And, I mean, I click on his articles from time to time as it is. as, a fellow person who covers the Blackhawks for a publication, just to kind of see where he was on the game and, what did he think of Korchinski, or what, where's he at on the whole organization? What did the first preseason game look like for him? And he kind of shares the same he kind of echoes the same thoughts as us. I wrote about it for the Windy City myself. My article was called That Game, or it was something here. I'll read the exact. It was Chicago Blackhawks preseason game is a sign of things to come. It was a game that they played okay in and got killed on the scoreboard. That is going to be what it is like all season long. We want to see the young guys that play well. We want to see the guys who are tradable assets play well, so other teams will want to trade for them. But you got to still end up losing the games. That's where the goaltending comes in. Some of the defense comes in, and you hopefully get in the mix for either Bedard or Fantilli. I counted on my hands. He brought up Bedard 3 times.
Even though they lost yesterday, I really like the way they played.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way they moved out there. I like what I saw from Taves. Taves is trying to get back to what he once was. I'm pretty sure he echoed those words. He's trying to, reform his game to be a lot better than what the media has made him out to be and what he has been. And I love what I saw from Gutman. I love what I saw from Korchinski, and I'm really excited for this young team this year.
Absolutely. It kind of sucks that Korchinski's not going to play.
Yeah, I know. But he's great for the future.
Oh, absolutely. And guess what? Like, you're still going to be able to keep up with Korchinski. Mm-hmm. His highlights are going to be all over Twitter.com every single day. You see, how often does Bedard pop up on your timeline?
A lot.
I bet a lot. I bet a lot. And now that the season's about to get underway, it's the same thing like Luke Hughes just making sick plays at Michigan. On Devils Twitter, the videos pop up every single day. I purchased AHL TV this season, and it was a cheap split with the Pucks and Pitchforks crew. And so we'll have full access to the Rockford Ice Hogs this season and, the Utica Devils. Did you see the new Utica Devils jersey?
I have not.
Oh, my God. I'm going to show it to those who are watching. If you're listening on the audio version, go to the Utica Comets Twitter page, and you will find it with relative ease. But, Frank, I have this in a Devils version. Tell me that's not the sickest thing you've ever seen. It's green and red. The Utica Comets.
That is really cool.
Isn't that cool?
That is really cool.
Big fire. And I kind of want to get one. They're going to be available for purchase. And
should.
I don't own it. I don't own an AHL jersey. I own a Marlies shirt and an Ice Hog shirt and a Wolves hat. So I have 3 AHL teams represented in my wardrobe somewhere, but I have nothing Devils, and I just have never.
I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, me too. But the Devils always switch, so I never committed. It was the Albany Devils, and then the Binghamton Devils, and now it's the Utica Comets. So we'll see how it goes from there. But Frank, over the last couple of weeks, we've previewed a division. We previewed the one on the West Coast, and we previewed the one on the East Coast. Do you want to come in the middle a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Let's come in the middle a little bit and preview the National Hockey League's Central Division. We will go from the bottom to the top of last year's standings and kind of go through the team and predict who we think is going to be the leading scorer of said team in this upcoming season. Frank, of course, that means we are going to start with the probably worst team in the league. I wholeheartedly believe the Blackhawks are going to give them a run for their money. I do. You and Tab probably disagree with me. I think if the Blackhawks trade Kane and Domi's gone and Athanasiou's out of here and Taves is their best player left because they can't trade Jones probably, or Jones would be their best player left, but who's scoring goals for this team? Who's making saves in net? It's just a whole lot of ick if they trade Patrick Kane for this season. Reichel's a good player, but he ain't leading them in scoring this year. He's going to be a rookie. And we don't have Korchinski there yet. And we're still waiting on Frank Nazar, who's going to play some college hockey this season. And they'll probably leave a guy like Gutman in the AHL all season long. And so if some of those things happen, I do believe they will give Arizona a run for their money for the highest odds at the draft ladder. I think Philly's in the mix too. But those Arizona Coyotes, regardless of where they finish, they are going to finish at or near the bottom. Who do you believe is going to lead them in scoring this season?
Yeah, I think they're going to stink. It also doesn't help playing in an arena that only holds 5,000 fans. I think when the fans get loud and there's a lot of energy, that helps the team win at home because of how hard it can be to win on the road. And you're not going to have that same atmosphere when you're cutting out like 15,000 extra seats. I think they're going to be terrible. I don't think there's a lot of talent on this team. And I'm going to go with a little bit of a shock. I know you're not going to have this guy leading the team. It's not a chalk answer. I really like what he did last year with the team. He had a career high of 59 points last year. I'm going to go with Nick Schmaltz.
I like that pick. I was back and forth between him and the guy who did lead them in scoring last year. I don't think it's crazy at all to think that Nick Schmaltz could lead them in scoring. The reason the Blackhawks got rid of Nick Schmaltz is that he was kind of lazy and he didn't look like he wanted to be there that much. But he's a supremely talented player. I think he's better than Dylan Strome. I think the Blackhawks lost that trade. I do. I'm sorry. But they got a player who wanted to play for them, so you can argue they won the trade at the same time because, like, nobody wants a guy who doesn't want to be there. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I am going to go with Clayton Keller. I think Clayton Keller is a high talented player. I think if he was on a lot of teams in the league, he would be an 80, 90-point guy. Like, he's supremely talented. And I do think for a little bit, not for the whole season, but for a little bit, November, December, because as Tab pointed out, 20 of their first 25 games are on the road. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
They're going to get a little bolt from playing in a college. I think there's going to be like a little sense of like a small town feeling for a little bit. It'll wear off. It will absolutely wear off. But for a little bit of time, I think they're going to go on a run where some of these Arizona State kids are Arizona State, Banana Lands College, top 3 party school in the country. And I think those kids are going to come out and support the Arizona Coyotes. I don't think it's going to be an empty rink. I don't. And Arizona State's program's amazing. Austin Matthews is always repping them when it's the off season and stuff like that. Which Tab thinks Austin Matthews is coming to the Blackhawks in 2 years, doesn't he?
That would be sick.
It would be so sick. And
imagine Bedard, Matthews.
If Patrick Kane stays, then I'll think if Patrick Kane stays, I'll think it's a possibility. Because Austin Matthews always talking Patrick Kane.
But why would he want to come to Chicago?
I mean, the team will be on the come up. It's a world-class city to live in. I mean, he's Austin Matthews. He like hangs out with Bieber and shit. Like, I honestly think it's either Toronto, LA, Vegas, or Chicago or New York, one of the New Yorks. Like, Austin Matthews is not going to play for the Leafs. The Leafs will be an option. But it sounds like Tab thinks that means Tab heard something. I would think. I don't know for sure. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but it sounds to me like he thinks there's a chance Austin Matthews could come to the Blackhawks when they have $70 million in space, and he'll make $15 million.
They'll have the cap space to do it.
Yeah, and there certainly would put butts in seats having the NHL's 60-goal man entering his prime come to the team. Man, the Leafs really screwed themselves by giving him only a 5-year deal, eating up only 1 year of his unrestricted free agency. That's a tweak move. But back to the place where Austin Matthews hails, Arizona. Yeah, I'm going to go with Clayton Keller. I don't really think it's much to argue, though. It's going to be one of those two.
I agree. One of the two. I just really like what I saw from Schmaltz last year.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And now on the list, in second to last place of last year, we are going to wonder, who do you think is going to lead the Chicago Blackhawks in scoring?
I think this one's pretty easy. I'm going to go with Patrick Kane. We got a lot of young guys on the team. Kane's always putting up big numbers. I don't think that these young guys are going to do that just yet. So I don't think there's really anybody on the team that's going to contend with him. So Patrick Kane is my pick.
Hold up a finger where the camera can see it every time you hear a player's name that is not on the team anymore. Patrick Kane.
Wait. What do you want me to do? Every time you say it.
Every time you hear a player that is no longer with the team, hold up a finger.
Okay.
Patrick Kane. Alex DeBrincat. Seth Jones. Dylan Strome. Jonathan Taves. Dominic Kubalik. Kirby Doc. Taylor Radish. Jake McCabe. Philip Kurashev. Eric Gustafson.
Wait. Is Radish still with the team?
Yeah.
Okay. I got 4. right?
Four of the top 10 scorers from last season gone. That's a lot. 40%
It
of
is
your
a
top
lot.
10
Oh, it's a
out.
lot.
See ya. That's crazy. And the fact that Strome had 48 points and DeBrincat had 78 points. I'm not good at math, but that's 130 points gone out the door. See ya. Bye-bye. Add another 32 for Kubalik, another 26 for Doc. This Blackhawks team is going to suck. I'm just forewarning everyone. I love Kane. Kane's going to go to the Hall of Fame, and he's going to lead his class and give the first speech. 88 will hang in the United Center's Raptors within months of him retiring, whether it's with them or another team. I think they'll build a statue. I'd be shocked if they don't, to be honest. He's the greatest player in the history of their franchise. I don't want to hear about Bobby Hall. I don't want to hear about Stan Mikita. Those guys didn't win crap compared to Patrick Kane, and he played in a harder era. Patrick Kane is going to lead them in scoring. It's probably the most chalk answer in this division, in my opinion. And I hope he's able to get into those upper echelon numbers with the lack of help around him. That's the thing that scares me, because Domi is going to be his center. Domi's been bad offensively the last 3 or 4 years. Don't let the name make you think of the Domi from 2018-19. That guy might be gone. We hope he's not gone. He played with some trash teams in the mix. But I hope Patrick Kane is able to really get it going this season.
Yeah, your mic is like a little poppy. Unless it's me.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if anybody else hears it or if it's just me or my speakers.
Well, let's get to the next team, and then I'll do some troubleshooting while you give your answer. The next team, of course, is the Winnipeg Jets. Frank, who's going to lead the Winnipeg Jets in scoring?
Well, the thing about the Winnipeg Jets is I like their offense. They got a lot of talent on offense. Skokes said that it is a bit poppy, the mic. But, yeah, so the Jets, I really like their offense. I think they got some talented players on their offensive end. Don't think they're going to be that good. They got a weak defense after Morrissey and Pionk. There's really nothing after that. They don't got a lot of depth on D. But I'm going to go with Kyle Connor. I like what I see from Kyle Connor every year. I think he's very capable of putting up 90 to 100 points potentially. So I'm going to go with Kyle Connor. Your mic's muted.
How does my mic sound now?
Talk.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Better?
Yeah.
Sometimes the answer to things in life.
Nope. It's back to Poppy.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What about now?
I don't know.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
When you
4.
do testing, it's fine. But then when you start to talk,
I just don't understand why.
see, like now it's Poppy.
Is it like really bad? Like,
yeah, I mean, if Skokes knows that it's happening too.
Okay, well, I don't think there's any world where Kyle Connor doesn't lead the Winnipeg Jets in scoring. Is it still popping really bad?
Yeah, and sometimes it like cuts out to where I can't even hear some of the words you're saying. You're muted.
Is it working? Can you hear now?
Yeah, for now.
We're just going to use the computer wire for now because, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I think Kyle Connor is going to lead the Winnipeg Jets in scoring 93 points in 79 games last year. I wanted to pick Scheifele because I believe Scheifele is capable of leading the Winnipeg Jets in scoring. He's done it many times, and he actually was over point per game last year as well, but he got hurt. So I'm leaving the door for Scheifele to lead them in scoring, but Kyle Connor has just been too good lately for me to pick anybody else but him.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of talent on that offense, but I think their defense is what's going to kill them this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So, when I think of Winnipeg, I definitely will think of offense this year. I think they're going to score lots of goals. It wouldn't shock me if they're one of those surprise teams. And, we'll get to that in a little bit. They're going to be my pick for the potential surprise team from the Central Division. Like, they've been good in the past, and I don't see why they were so bad last year. Like, it really didn't make sense to me at all why they were so bad last year looking at their roster. But, I'm wondering if it's like a 2022 Chicago White Sox situation where there's all this talent there, and for whatever reason, they just couldn't win games. And so 2023, 24, or 2022, 23 is probably going to be the last test for Winnipeg. I think there will be major changes made if they stink again this year. And they're going to give it one more go with this core. You know, the Wheeler, the Connor, Scheifele, you know, all those guys. They'll be back for one more year. This team that is next on the list was one of the only teams in the National Hockey League last season to have a defenseman lead them in scoring. Frank, the Nashville Predators. Who do you think is going to lead Nashville's team in scoring?
Well, yeah, last year, career best for Roman Josi. He was just playing out of his mind. Honestly, could have won the Norris. If it wasn't for Cale Makar, he would have won the Norris. I honestly think he kind of got robbed in a way. Like, we all know what Cale Makar's capable of. He's probably going to do what he did last year, this year, right? But when Josi has that good of a year and has more points than Makar, I think you had to give it to Roman Josi, and I think ultimately he does it again this year and leads his team in scoring.
Wow. See, I like that.
I think it's happening.
I was going to go for it, but I can't pick a defense in 2 years in a row. It just never happens. Like, I still think he could get in like the 80s, the 70s. Like, Roman Josi is amazing. I think he's one of the 5 premier defensemen in the NHL. Like, if you can have a defenseman draft, he's going in everyone's top 5, maybe top 3. Okay, and Nashville has also an elite goalie to help make the defensemen look and feel a little better about themselves. They have great forward depth. They had 9 forwards have 30 points or more, and they had 5 with 60 or more. You know, like Tanner Janot had 41 points, 6th place, the rookie. Kirby Doc was in the same spot with like 20-something points for the Blackhawks. Like, that's the difference between depth on good teams and bad teams. And that helps a guy like Roman Josi. But
go ahead. By the way, the popping's back.
The popping's back?
Yeah.
Well, then it's not my microphone.
Well, I don't know what it is, but
my microphone's unplugged. I'm using the computer mic now.
I don't know.
I'm starting to wonder.
I would think it was me, but I'm not the only one hearing it.
Yeah. So if we could get Scott in the chat to let us know if he still hears popping from me.
But yeah, I mean, you could continue to go because if he hears it, then it.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Oh, that sounds better. What did you do?
Okay, I got my mic back in. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's good.
7. Okay, we'll see how that goes for a little while. I'm gonna choose Philip Forsberg. Forsberg is one of the best players in the NHL, in my opinion. He had 84 points in a very nice 69 games played last season. If he plays 82, we're talking about 100 points. Okay, and I think if he plays around the same amount of games as Josi, the forward will naturally have more points. He's a forward. And he had 42 goals and 42 assists. I like a guy who's even. You know, I if I had the number 1 pick in fantasy hockey in a couple weeks, I probably would draft Leon Draisaitl. Because McDavid might have like 20 more assists, but he's going to give you goals and assists, man. And Philip Forsberg does the same thing. I think very highly of this guy. I think he leads Nashville in scoring this upcoming season.
Skoke says it's back. Yeah, it is. So he hears it. So I don't know then, because I'm not Poppy.
I have no idea what's happening. Maybe I'll leave the studio.
Maybe it's a connection issue or like a little.
Yeah, maybe I'll leave.
Or you just go through it. I mean, I could still hear you. It's just some of the things are.
Yeah, while you're going through your next answer, I'll leave the studio and rejoin. If you can add me while you're talking.
I could do that.
Okay.
I could do that.
Well, we'll get to the next team really quickly. Of course, I'm talking about the Dallas Stars. Do you have any reaction to me picking Forsberg first?
No, I'm a little surprised because I think Forsberg's probably only going to get between maybe 70, 80 points. And I think Josi's going to get like at least 90, probably again, maybe high 80s.
Wow, you think Forsberg is going to take that much of a step back, though?
Yeah, I think it'll be like 75 to 80, maybe.
We'll see. I think Nashville's going to be very, very good. But, before we do this, tell me what you think about the Dallas Stars.
Well, the Dallas Stars get Ottinger back this year, which is, I think they signed him to, I don't know what his contract was, but they need a big year from Ben and Sagan ultimately. They got Hintz, Pavelski, Robertson, all big players that they're going to have contribute to this team. But I think that Jason Robertson's going to lead this team. I love what I saw from him last year. Personally, I don't see anybody else do it. There's a ton of talent who could do it. I think if Ben had a great year, Jamie Benn could do it. If Sagan had a great year, he's capable of doing it. We've seen what they're able to do in the past. And, we'll have to see. But as long as Robertson stays healthy, I think Jason Robertson's definitely going to lead this team in points this year. I just finished when you came in, so that was perfect.
That's perfect.
I said Jason Robertson.
You said Jason Robertson. Okay, we agree. Last year, Joe Pavelski. How am I sounding, by the way?
Good for now, but we'll know in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I actually think Joe Pavelski had an outstanding season this past year, 81 points, but Jason Robertson takes the next step and leads the team in scoring as of this year. I believe Roope Hintz will be right behind him, though. I think those two guys come 1 and 2, and then you'll probably get the Sagans, the Pavelskis, the Bens, all in that 3 to 6 range on the team. Miro Heiskanen could take a big step forward. I'm surprised to see. I guess I didn't realize Ryan Suter had 32 points. I don't know what the problem is.
Just leave it, I guess. You just got to leave it.
Yeah, so, Jason Robertson, he's going to lead Dallas in scoring. Hopefully they are able to get more out of him and Roope Hintz, because if they take that next level or that next step, and a guy like Sagan or a guy like Ben are able to come through and I'm not going to say live up to their contracts, because they lived up to their contracts at one point. If they could just be good players, Dallas could legitimately win the Stanley Cup. I believe that. They need Robertson and Hintz to take that next step, though. I believe they will. Robertson will be your Dallas Stars leading scorer.
I mentioned Ben and Sagan, too, how if they step up to the plate, you never know what can happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. I could not agree more. Frank, the team that the Chicago Blackhawks just played yesterday, the St. Louis Blues. Who's going to lead the Blues in scoring? This one's a little harder to predict, I think.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to go with chalk here from seasons past. But, this team didn't do a ton in the offseason, right? But, they still – we'll see how they fare this year, if they're going to be relative, if they're going to try and contend for the playoffs or whatnot. Obviously, Binnington's their number one, Greiss number 2. As far as offense goes, I think it's going to be Vladimir Tarasenko. As long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just not sure how long Tarasenko's going to be on the Blues. It wouldn't surprise me if they trade him. And he was in rumors all summer long, and they ended up keeping him for now. I think Robert Thomas is going to lead the Blues in scoring. He's a very, very good young player. He's going to be a very, very good young player for many years. He's proven he could do it for more than 1 year. He's not a one-hit wonder by any means. And he was a Stanley Cup champion in his rookie year. He got drafted into a very nice situation. And I think he has a chance to go lead this team in scoring. He's a very rich man now, and things are going to go well for him in the future.
I like it.
The team that came in second place in the division is one that I think is going to take a slight step back this season because of the fact that they have to deal with the contract cap hits for buying out Zach Parise and Ryan Suter. Of course, I'm talking about the Minnesota Wild. This one might actually be the actual chalk pick of the division. It's right there with the Blackhawks for the chalk pick of the division. Frank, who is going to lead the Minnesota Wild in scoring?
I couldn't agree with you more when you said that you believe that the Minnesota Wild are going to have a little step back. I think they're going to have a little bit of regression too. There is still a ton of talent on this team. You got Boldy, Rossi, young talent. Another young guy, though, who I think is going to lead the team in scoring is Kirill Kaprizov. We lost Vinny, but that's okay. I think Kirill's going to have another 100-point year. Probably easily. I say easy, even though getting 100 points in the NHL is not easy. but I don't think that there is anybody else right now capable on the Minnesota Wild that will get 100 points. So I'm going to go Kirill Kaprizov.
Absolutely. I tried something with the connection. We'll see if this works this time with the sound and keeps it good going for a little bit here. But does it sound better to start?
Mm-hmm.
This is my last option. This is plan Z. So I'm assuming you picked Kirill Kaprizov while I was fixing that. Of course, I am also going to take Kirill the Thrill, one of the most electrifying players in the National Hockey League, regardless of the fact that the Wild had to trade Fiala just to get back under the cap so they can deal with these Parise Suter contract issues that they're dealing with. I believe the Minnesota Wild will still be a pretty damn good team. It will be in the postseason once again, and it is all because of one of the most electric players in the National Hockey League right now, Kirill the Thrill. I think he'll be well over 100 points again. He's going to score lots of goals. And you might remember, Kirill the Thrill got off to a slow start last season. Like, people were wondering, like, hey, was that COVID season with no fans in the stands? Was that like, when he won the Calder Trophy, you might remember, people were like, oh, is, that going to happen again? Like, is he going to take a little bit of a step back? Is he a superstar? Is he just a star? Then he turned on the Jets and he got super hot. I don't think he's going to get off to a slow start at all this season. I think he'll be pretty steady all season long. I think he can be top 5 in scoring. He can be in that conversation. And maybe not McDavid, maybe not Draisaitl, maybe not Matthews, but like that Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane, Nathan McKinnon, like 110, 115 points. And yeah, I think the world of Kirill the Thrill. He might be the best winger in the NHL besides Ovechkin.
I think he gets 100 easy, I said.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. He'll have a couple hat tricks. And the Wild are going to rely on him a little bit more. Okay, I really like Matt Zuccarello. He can get 80 points. Again, wouldn't shock me at all. Ryan Hartman, I think the goal scoring will come down just a little bit, but I still think he's a 50-point guy. Good, great player. I think Joel Eriksson Ek will have more than 49 points. He's a guy I think takes a little bit of another step. He seems to take steps every year. Marcus Foligno was out of his mind last year. I certainly think Matt Boldy will have more than 39 points this season. We'll see if Jordan Greenway is able to get to that 30-point milestone. The Wild are going to probably use Marco Rossi this season. Tab touched on him as a top Minnesota Wild prospect. He is one of the top prospects in the world. I think if I were ranking the top 15 prospects in the NHL right now, Rossi would show up right there. And, guys like that will help Kirill the Thrill. And I think playing on a good team, the Wild are rivals with almost every team in the division. It seems like it just seems like the Wild get up to play almost every game they play. And their biggest rival in the division, in my opinion, are the reigning 2022 Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. Frank, we talked about the Wild and the Blackhawks being chalk. Most years you would think the Colorado Avalanche are chalk, but I'm here to tell you they're not. There are legitimately 4 guys who can lead this team in scoring in any given year, and I cannot wait to hear what comes out of your mouth right now on that.
I'm going to go with probably what most people would say. I don't know. In my opinion, I think it's going to be Nathan McKinnon. He's going to burst 100 points pretty easily as well, I think. The Colorado Avalanche, they're a wagon. They're a powerhouse. A lot of talent. He's going to have no problem breaking 100 points. I think he leads the team pretty easily, to be honest with you. I know there are other people on the team who could contend, but I don't know. There's just something about Nathan McKinnon who's not always healthy either. But once again, if he could stay healthy, I think he gets it.
For those of you who think I'm crazy for thinking there are other options besides Nathan McKinnon, listen, Nathan McKinnon absolutely could. I'm thinking about picking him myself. I might pick someone else just to be different from you, but there's no world where you can't say McKinnon's not the front runner. But Kadri's gone, 87 points out the door. 92 points from Mikko Rantanen last year. McKinnon had 88. Cale Makar had 86 as a defenseman. And then Landeskog had 59. He dealt with a little bit of injury trouble. He had 59 points in 51 games played. I bet if I did that on my calculator right now, that would probably lead the team in points per game. What did I say? 59 and 51 times 82. That is a 94-point pace, folks. Landeskog is perfectly capable of being a 100-point player himself. There are 4 of those guys on Colorado. One of them's a defenseman. I am going to go with a little bit of the strange one here. I'm going to go with the one who's least likely of the 4 if you were to bet on it, and take Cale Makar.
Wow.
Cale Makar
I'd be
will
a
be
little
one of,
shocked.
I would be a little shocked too, but also I think he could. And that's why I'm going to do it. No, we're not going to nail all these. Right? If there's one that I'm cool taking a risk on, it's the Colorado Avalanche. Cale Makar, I think I've never seen a player get better in the middle of the season. He got better for the playoffs. And they won the Stanley Cup. I just think he can join the rush. And Kat brought it up, calling Korchinski a tall Makar. Makar does that where he rushes the net if he sees, one of the elite forwards coming up the half wall. He has the IQ to go up there and know, hey, this is an opportunity for me to score a goal. I know my center has my back down the wing. If this is Rantanen. I think Rantanen's the second most skilled offensive player on the Avalanche behind McKinnon. Well, I guess you could say third behind McKinnon and Makar. But Rantanen is elite. He's elite. So is Landeskog. And there's lots of points to be had for Makar. I think Makar will be on the ice with more offensive players a lot of the time because he's a defenseman. He'll get more ice time, more opportunity. That's my argument for choosing Cale Makar as the potential leading scorer. Frank, let's go through our standings predictions for the Central Division. What do you got?
I'll start from bottom up, starting in 8th place in the Central Division. I got the Arizona Coyotes. Not only do I think they're going to finish last in the division, I think they're going to finish last in the league. Not saying the Hawks aren't going to contend with them, like you said, but I just are giving them a run for their money. But I really don't see a team being worse than the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, if their leading scorer this year is Nick Schmaltz and he doesn't even have 60 points and he leads the team, I mean, that's a little embarrassing. But I think it's going to be the Arizona Coyotes finish 8th. 7th, I got the Chicago Blackhawks. We've touched on them with Tab. We touch on them every week, how they are in the Bedard sweepstakes. Really, it's not going to be surprising. They're probably going to finish 7th just because the Coyotes are going to be that much worse, I think. 6th, I got the Winnipeg Jets. Like I said earlier, they got a good offense. I like their offense. Very talented. We've seen what their offense could do in years past. But I think what hurts them is their defense. After Morrissey and Pionk, they really have no depth. There's no depth on that team in terms of defense. So I think that's really going to hurt them. I think they finished 6th. My 5th place may surprise you. Because obviously when we did the Pacific for the Western Conference, I had 4 playoff teams, and so I have to have 4 from the Central as well. And that means that this team will not be making the playoffs for me. And that is the St. Louis Blues. Bennington's are number 1, Grice is their number 2. I don't like that goalie tandem at all for the whole season. They didn't make a lot of moves this offseason. I think there's going to be a little bit of regression. Just something about the Blues this year that I just see them falling short, not making the postseason. I think 5th is fair, especially because my number 4, I think with having Ottinger, between the pipes, I loved what I saw from Ottinger, at least for the second half of the season next year. If they could get a big year for Ben and Sagan, I think the Stars finish 4th in the division and sneak into the playoffs. I really do. They got Robertson, Rupe Hintz, Pavelski. They got a lot of talent too. They got people that are players that could put the puck in the net. And like we said, if Sagan and Ben could have one of those years, then yeah, I'm not shocked at all that they make the postseason. Ottinger's there in net. Like I said, he's a stud, so I think they'll be just fine in 4th. 3rd place, while it's a little bit of a regression in my opinion, it's the Minnesota Wild. They lost Fiala. But they got Boldy and Marco Rossi. And I think with Kirill and Zook, and I don't know. I really like this team. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year, but I do think they will. They'll finish 3rd. And when I say not as good as they were last year, I don't remember where they finished last year. Was it 3rd in the division? 2nd in the division? they're not going to have as many points as they did last year. It's just not going to happen. It's a little regression. I don't see them regressing out of the playoffs at all. So I think third was a perfect fit for them. Second place, you're going to be happy with this pick. I think it's going to be the Nashville Predators. I've been doing some thinking. I've been going back and forth. Are the Predators really going to be that good? Are they not? I mean, yeah, you're probably right. They're probably going to be pretty good. Roman Josi, Ekholm. You have McDonough now. I mean, that helps a little bit as well. Saros, he's going to be a Vezina contender. Absolutely. And obviously Philip Forsberg. I mean, this team's very talented, very deep. So I'm going to have him at number 2 just because I just don't think there's any way that anybody tops the Colorado Avalanche. They're bringing a majority of their core back. I think they're going to win the division. They lost Kadri. They lost Burakovsky. But ultimately, they were able to sign Nikushkin, which I think was huge for them, on top of Rantanen, Makar, McKinnon, everybody else on the team. I think it's their division to win. After winning the Stanley Cup, you never know. You could have that Stanley Cup hangover, but I just this team is too good. And like I said, they brought back a lot of their core. So Colorado Avalanche win the Central Division, in my opinion.
Ours are very close. I have the Blackhawks coming in last because I do think they're going to trade Kane, and once they trade Kane, the team sucks. Like, worse. Like, they'll compete for last with Kane. If you take him out, I'm like, wow. If they don't trade Kane, then I don't think they're going to come in last, but I'm of the opinion that they are going to. I think they would be foolish not to because you can get 2 first-round picks, a high-level prospect, and probably more for a guy who is on an expiring contract. You could just try and re-sign him at the end of the year or move on because sometimes in sports you just need to move on. You know, we cheer for laundry in sports, and I think some people forget that sometimes. But, you know, so I got them coming in last and Arizona coming in second to last. It could flip-flop depending on transactions made throughout the season. Like if Clayton Keller got hurt in the first week and missed 2 months, then I think they would have a chance to come in last, right? Like, they have good goaltending, though. I really like Velmelka. He's a pretty good player. Shane Goss is on defense. We'll see what happens. But in third to last, of course, I'm going to go with the Winnipeg Jets just because I think it's a very good division. And, like, I don't know who to put below them. But I will touch on the Winnipeg Jets a little bit later in our Chance of Surprise segment. But right above them, I have just missing the playoffs. And I know I said I think they could win the Stanley Cup because I believe if they get in, I believe they could. But I did pick 4 from the Pacific Division as well, so I have to leave one of the big 5 in the Central Division out, and that's the Dallas Stars for me. Just because am I going to trust the rookie or I guess the second-year player to come in and do it again? I do, but at the same time, I don't know. I wonder because it seems like Dallas is good every other year. They fought with Vegas for that last wild card spot all season long last year, and now I think Vegas is going to be better. So I think that could be the difference between ousting the Dallas Stars. The team they'll be fighting for with the final wild card spot, in my opinion, is the Minnesota Wild. I do think they could go out and make a big move. They like having Marc-Andre Fleury, of course, now. They have great defensemen with Spurgeon, and Dumba's on an expiring contract again. You know, we'll see what Joel Eriksson Ek can do. I love Matt Zuccarello. Kirill the Thrill is one of the elite players in the NHL. I got them just squeaking into the playoffs as a wild card team in the 4th spot of the Central Division. And third, I do have the St. Louis Blues in. That is our only disagreement in terms of playoffs in this division, I think. The Blues are just that team. They're kind of like the Cardinals. Like it's something like about St. Louis teams where like every year you think they're going to, take a step back or miss the playoffs, whatever. And then they win 17 straight to end the season last year and then make it to the wild card game. Or last year, all of a sudden, Jordan Kyrou turns into an all-star level player. And the Blues are always in the mix every year, no matter what. And you look at their roster, and I'm not a meatball just saying St. Louis is going to be in the mix again. Like, you look like they have 10 guys who can have 30 points or more. And I think that's crazy for a team. Brandon Saad is like their 6th best forward. That's crazy. So I got the Blues coming in third. In second place is a team that I could see competing for first, only because the defending Stanley Cup champions start off the following season cold a lot of the times, and sometimes it's hard to make up that ground, but I'm still going to stick with it and put them in second. I agree with you. The Nashville Predators are insane. I think Philip Forsberg is not only do I think he's not going to regress, I think he's going to step forward just because he's got so much help on that Nashville Predators team. I really like Mikhail Granlund. Duchesne and Johansson are very good. Roman Josi is one of the best defensemen in the NHL. McDonough is finally on another team again, and he's going to help impact them and kind of probably be their number 3 behind him and Ekholm. And Ekholm's very good, elite goaltending. I'm not sure about Kevin Lankinen as their backup, but every Finnish goalie that goes to Nashville turns into a stud. You know, like Pekka Rinne, UC Saros, like Kevin Lankinen. It wouldn't shock me at all. Freaking Kevin Lankinen looked like COVID year Lankinen, where he made people think the Blackhawks were actually going to make the playoffs that year. Like, it just wouldn't surprise me. And he's only going to play like 30 games, right? It's just the perfect situation for Kevin Lankinen. You couldn't handpick a better team for him, and he gets to live in Nashville too, which is really fun. I love you, Nashville. And number 1 is the Colorado Avalanche, the defending Stanley Cup champions. You got McCall. You got McKinnon, you got Rantanen, and you got Landeskog. Nichushkin's amazing. New goaltending this year. That'll throw a little wrinkle. They're going to start with Georgiev and see how he works out for them. But, you know, one thing I really like about Colorado that nobody talks about, everybody thinks about the offensive side of things, including with Cale Makar. When you think about their defense, led by Cale Makar, you also have Girard and Devin Taves and Bowen Byram, who the Blackhawks absolutely freaking tweaked for not taking 3rd overall. Bowen Byram's amazing. You know, he could win a Norris Trophy. He could be their number 2 by the time next year's said and done. And if Bowen Byram is better than Devin Taves, then the Avalanche might win the Cup again because Devin Taves is amazing. So I think very highly of Colorado and Nashville too, but Colorado specifically. I think both of those teams will be in that President's Trophy type of conversation. I really, really think highly of both of them. They'll probably both take a dump on my face and miss the playoffs and try to win the division. But, you know, and the Blackhawks will go on a hot run. They'll decide to keep Korchinski because he's so good through, you know, 9 games or whatever. Because it is possible that he plays the first 9 games of the season before getting shipped off to juniors. But if he scores a goal in that 9th game and goes on and wins the Norris Trophy or some shit, like that would just be my luck in terms of making predictions. So you have making the postseason Colorado, Nashville, Minnesota, and Dallas.
Yeah.
And I have Colorado, Nashville, St. Louis, and Minnesota. So we have, and in the Pacific, I had Vegas, Calgary, Edmonton, and the Kings. You probably had the same.
Yeah, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
Yes, and all of our predictions will go on twitter.com the night before the season begins. Frank, of these teams, who's the most set up for playoff success besides the Colorado Avalanche?
That's what I was gonna say. I mean,
no shit.
Is there anybody else? Really? Like,
fine. Colorado.
I mean, I could go with another. I could say, I guess I would have no choice but to say the Predators, I guess, besides Colorado, just because you have Saros, you got, I mean, all the players I named earlier, Ekholm, Josi, McDonough, Forsberg. I mean, if they don't make the playoffs or have success, then it's kind of a tweak on their end.
Yeah.
But honestly, besides them, it'd have to be the Colorado Avalanche, just because last year during the playoffs, I said, if there's a step up above the NHL, that's the Colorado Avalanche. They're not an NHL team. They're better than an NHL team. And after all the players we named today, discussing the team, they're just so deep everywhere. Their goaltending, we're going to see a little bit of a change. I think Georgiev will be pretty well there. I don't think he'll have any problems. But other than that, I mean, they're deep on defense. They're deep on offense. I mean, you know they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, there's probably 0.1% chance they don't make the playoffs. And then once you get into the playoffs, you got that experience of winning the cup. All these players, the young Makars now got experience of winning a Stanley Cup and going deep into games and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's got to be the Colorado Avalanche or the Nashville Predators, because if I'm wrong and the Wild missed the playoffs or the Stars missed the playoffs, I guess I wouldn't be too surprised. So it'd have to be the Avalanche or the Predators for me.
That's fair. I just wanted to see if you would have another answer if I said besides Colorado. I added that in last second just to see if you would come up with an argument for another team, because I could come up with an argument for another team too, because of course it's the Colorado Avalanche. They're set up for success. They proved it. They have 4 really good defensemen, that can be a number 2 on most teams. Some of them could be a number 1. I do think Byram could be a number 1. Okay. I think Taves is like a high-end number 2. I think Gerard is a high-end number 2. Makar is a franchise player. Like, saying a number 1 defenseman is like, it's kind of selling him short. Like, he's better than a number 1 defenseman. He's a franchise player. But so of course it's Colorado. If their goaltending holds up, and everyone had worries about Kemper last year, and he went, I'm on the Avalanche. You could put your grandma back here, and she would stop the puck, right? Like, so Georgiev's going to be awesome. I do think I agree with you, Nashville. They have experience. They've made deep runs. A lot of those guys have been around the block. I also think the very same for the St. Louis Blues. Jordan Binnington is a Stanley Cup champion. Ryan O'Reilly's a Stanley Cup champion. Vladimir Tarasenko is a Stanley Cup champion. Yep. Brandon Saad is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Robert Thomas, Stanley Cup champion. Krug has been to the Cup with the Bruins twice. Like, I just think the world of what they got going on in St. Louis too, and they got rid of Pietrangelo and replaced him with Krug, as I mentioned. They got good goaltending. They got good defense. Their forwards are deep. Kairu's coming up and, really becoming a star in this league. So those are the 3 teams I'm looking at when it comes to playoff success. Are there any teams in the bottom that you think have a chance to surprise you? You know my answer.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we have the same answer. I don't know. I don't remember your answer.
I was going to say Winnipeg.
That's my answer.
Winnipeg, they can score goals to win enough games.
I agree.
7, and they have a really good goalie, right? Like, Hellebuck has been a Vezina caliber goalie. If he has a .920 save percentage and Scheifele, Connor, and Wheeler all have 85 plus points, they could be a team that makes it to the wild card with 93 standings points.
I think it all depends on Hellebuck and Rittich, because that's their backup this year. They got Rittich. And I like David Rittich. I liked him on the Flames. I thought he was really good. He was playing good for Calgary. I think if Hellebuck, we all know what Hellebuck's capable of. I mean, we've seen what he's capable of and the numbers he puts up. I don't think he's terrible.
He's probably the best active American goalie. He probably would be Team USA's starter if they played in the Olympics this year.
So if their goaltending holds up, we know how good their offense could be. They have a lot of big named players that we know on offense, Blake Wheeler and Scheifele, and I'm forgetting a big Kyle Connor. Yeah, I mean, so if they for some reason were to make a run, they'd probably get in 4th. I don't see them like winning the division or coming in 2nd, but if they made it as a bubble team right there, or just missed, it wouldn't surprise me really. But yeah, that would be my biggest surprise pick. I think the goaltending needs to step up to the plate a little bit. I think Hellebuck has been on a little bit of a regression lately. But yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, if I had to pick one team, it would be them.
I think we can agree on like this statement I'm about to make. Colorado and Nashville are locks. St. Louis, Minnesota, Dallas, and Winnipeg, there's 2 spots for 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then Arizona and Chicago suck ass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think any rational person would disagree with that. By looking at
I think the percentages would differ for like the Jets and
sure, like they probably would, but not by much.
No, not by much. But yeah, I think it's those 4 teams for the last 2 spots.
Let me ask you something and be honest with me. Going into this week, were you like out on Winnipeg, right? Just know they have no chance, they suck. And then you looked through their roster to decide who you think is going to be their leading scorer. And you're like, they got that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy. Like,
their defense scares me.
Their defense is scary. There's no doubt. They've pumped out defensemen that you never heard of before to be good in the past. We'll see if they can do that this year. But like, you see Pierre-Luc Dubois as like their 5th best forward, and you're like, Pierre-Luc Dubois would be the 2nd best forward on the Blackhawks behind Kane. Like, this Winnipeg team, I was stunned that they were bad last year. I had them making the playoffs last year. I remember saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. I wasn't here for that. I don't think. Was I?
Yeah, I think you came right after our previews.
Yeah.
Because we did our previews, then NHL came out.
So you had them missing the play, or you had them making the playoffs?
I had them making the playoffs last year. And Nashville surprised me. Nashville being really good last year surprised me. Now I'm all high on Nashville. But I remember thinking they stunk. I hated John Hines. And then now that Johansson and Duchesne have gotten back to being healthy and playing like themselves again, that's a game changer for Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And Philip Forsberg isn't that because I used to say Philip Forsberg only scores pretty goals. Well, last year he scored pretty goals and grimy goals, and that's why he had 42 of the things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at on this division. I think it's a great division. Outside of Arizona and the Blackhawks, any of those teams could make noise. I do truly believe that. And the Blackhawks have Patrick Kane, as far as we know, and that can help them win any individual game. That won't help them be a winning team for a season, but any individual game, if Patrick Kane has his legs going and he's feeling good about himself, you can lose no matter who you are.
I agree. 100%.
Absolutely. Well, that's the Central Division. You got anything else to say about these teams before we head into the third period?
No, not really.
Yeah, Central Division. They've pumped out, 2021 Stanley Cup final. Colorado, Nashville, St. Louis, Dallas, and the Blackhawks have all been in the Stanley Cup final in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Only Minnesota, Winnipeg, who was in the conference finals, and Arizona, who was also in the conference finals, have not made it. Minnesota is the only team in the division to not make it to the conference finals since 2010. And they've been one of the best teams since 2010.
Yeah, that's weird. They're just snake bit.
Yeah, they get to the second round and then lose to either the Blues, Avalanche, or Blackhawks, it seems like.
Which is fine.
There was 1 year they lost to the Stars, too. Hey, let's be nice to the Zach Parise Minnesota Wild.
Hey, they're my rival.
Yeah, whatever, chump. We will get to a little bit more NHL talk, NFL talk, and a little bit of pop culture in period number 3. Welcome to period 3. Frank, I cannot stop getting these stupid freaking toll-free calls on my phone all day today. From the moment I woke up till right now. Did you sign my number up for something?
Yeah, sorry about that.
You're starting to piss me off.
I got double XP for Call of Duty, so I put your number in so I could get it.
Don't talk to me about double XP, boy. Man, I remember there were points in my life where I would have done dirty, nasty things for double XP.
I mean the amount of Mountain Dew, Doritos, just for those codes. And
I don't even like Mountain Dew, and I'm slugging that shit just to get double XP.
Yep.
Teenage/early 20 Vinny was a complete a-hole. So, Frank, the preseason is here for the National Hockey League. We've all watched at least one game of our favorite teams at this point. The Devils are 2-0. They've looked good. The Hawks, they had some players that looked good. I don't know if you've caught any other teams. I watched a little bit of the Bruins yesterday. They were playing the Rangers. Alexis Lafreniere scored. My plan was to watch a little bit of the Kraken game last night, and then your boy got so tired that I actually went to bed kind of early. It's been a long week and coming back from Wisconsin. And, I've been feeling a little extra tired around the 11 o'clock mark when I stay up till 2 almost every night. But this week has been a little different. Have you gotten to watch any of the preseason? And what are your takeaways so far, if there are?
Yeah, I kind of kept track of the Minnesota Wild yesterday, as I was telling you and Tab earlier, that, their power play.
You secretly love the Wild. You just call them your rival.
They are my rival. No, I don't really care about them too much, to be honest with you. But it's like their power play was insane. Every time they went on the power play, they just score. They were 3 for 3 for their first 3 power plays. They scored 3 power play goals in a row. Not consecutively, because they were losing and then they scored a power play goal. But they ultimately ended up winning 5-2. But their first 3 goals of the games that they scored were on the power play. I was just that guy Tyson Jost, or whatever his name is, he was fantastic in that game. But preseason's here. I obviously watched the Hawks game. That was fun to watch. Hearing Chris Vosters and Troy Murray do the game without Eddie and Pat this year, that's something that we're all going to have to get used to. But yeah, preseason's here. I'm excited. And for me, it's just getting started. The Hawks play again tonight. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for it all. Tavares out 3 to 4 weeks with a little bit of an injury there. So that's some news from the Leafs that I wanted to touch on from the preseason. I like what I've seen. You'll be happy to know I've liked what I've seen from the New Jersey Devils. Lil Jizzy scored yesterday. They're calling his line now. Listen to this. You're going to like this because you like little cheeky things. Jack Hughes, Alexander Holtz, Andre Palat. The H2O line. I love it. And they're going to be the team's top line, I think, at least to start the season. Then you'll have Brat, Sharangovich, and Nico Hischier as the second line, I think. We'll see. That's
Wait,
a really
it's
nice
Hughes,
top
Palat,
Hughes,
and who?
Holtz. So like H squared, Holtz and Hughes.
Yeah.
And then Andre starts with an O.
Yeah.
So it's the
H2O.
H2O line.
I like
Drink
that.
water, bitch. He's drinking his water. He's drinking the H2O. Frank, I'm happy with the Devils. Dougie Hamilton scored.
I've seen some highlights from the Devils, and they looked good.
Yeah, I tweeted some highlights yesterday. Like, Hughes and Holtz, they're zipping the puck around like nobody's business. And then Andre Palat kind of reminds me of like a wing version. Remember what Artem Anisimov used to do for Panarin and Kane? Mm-hmm. Artem Anisimov was the perfect center for Patrick Kane and Artemi Panarin, who both kind of drive offense like a centerman. And Anisimov took faceoffs and then basically played wing from there. And Andre Palat kind of does that. He's hard to move down low. He's gritty on the boards. He wins a puck to Holtz, who makes a sick pass to Hughes, who absolutely snipes it on Ilya Sorokin, who's one of the best goalies in the NHL for the New York Islanders. And I'm like, wow, this line is going to be gritty and filthy. Like, I'm so excited about it. And then you know what Brat and Hischier can do, and Tatar's in the mix. Halla scored a goal off the rush, which is really nice. I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Devils so far. I am in no way freaking out over a preseason game. I know this team has mostly stunk since 2012, but we got to get good eventually, right?
You would think, and maybe this is the year.
Maybe. We will be previewing the Metropolitan Division in period number 2 of next week's Bardown Talking Hockey. I think I'm going to get someone, hopefully Devils related, as a guest for next week's show, just because I think I thought it was fun to have Tab and then go into the Central Division and get a Devils guest and then go into the Metropolitan Division. We'll see what we can come up with. The new Devils announcer told me to ask MSG if it's okay that he comes on, and then MSG told me no.
Really?
Yeah. So fuck MSG. I can't wait till the Devils are off MSG.
Why?
I don't know.
Like, why? It's not gonna hurt anything.
Listen, I love when people big time me because I big time them right back. I've had people 10 times more, known and popular and notable than the new Devils announcer who's replacing Steve Cangelosi that I can't even remember his name right now. And it's nothing against him. It's not his fault. Nick Olchek made me ask too, and then NBC Sports Chicago just never responded to me. So F them too. Go have fun with the Kraken. But it is what it is. We'll get a good guest next week.
Did Root Sports allow Day Sims?
I wish they said no. Frank, we'll see what the Devils are able to do, but the NFL's back, and I keep saying it's back. We're going into week 4 now.
It's hard to believe, right?
I know.
How much we talked about it, now we're in week 4. It's kind of crazy.
A freaking month of the season will have passed once we watch football on Thursday. I love it though. We're starting to see what teams are good, what teams stink. There are still some teams I'm unsure about, like the Bengals. Like, listen to this. The Bengals started 1-2. They probably should have won that first game and been 2-1. Your Steelers got a nice little overtime victory there off of a sick play at the end. But Joe Burrow has looked like Joe Burrow the last 2 weeks. The first week, what did he have? 4 picks?
Second week, he kind of stunk.
He had no interceptions the last 2 weeks. He's been great.
He was sacked 5 times though. So.
That's not his fault. There's some
partially his fault.
There's some parts where it's his fault.
I'm not saying there's 0% fault on him. No way.
No, there's not 0% fault. You're right. I would go 70-30. It actually also depends on the play. if he gets sacked because he's a statue, then that's fine. But if he gets sacked because of blown blocks by the line, you gotta watch the sacks. We could probably go through and look at all his sacks and decide which ones are his fault and which ones are the offensive line's fault. But dude, they got the freaking Dolphins on Thursday Night Football tomorrow, and
That'd be a good game.
it's going to be a great game. I think the Bengals get them though. And you know I'm high on the Dolphins. I picked them to be a playoff team. I didn't pick them to be 4-0.
I think the Bengals get them too. Actually,
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Bengals are wearing their white helmets for the first
Even
time.
though, and Miami's the hotter team right now, but I do think the Bengals get them.
Yeah, I do too. Short week. Joe Burrow is more experienced. It's an Alabama versus LSU quarterback matchup, which is fun. Everybody loves those sorts of things when they make their way to the NFL, but I'm high on the Bengals. But then they go to the Ravens, and I'm like, there's a world where they start 1-4, and that would be tough to come back from. That would be really, and there's a world where they start 1-4, and like, it's not bad Bengals. It's they played 5 close games, a game on the short end of 4 of them, right? You know, like I don't think if they lose by a field goal to the Ravens and Dolphins and they're 1-4, I'm going to think to myself, if there was a team that's 1-4 that could come back from this, it's them. But, you know, we'll see what happens. But I actually wanted to chat with you about the NFC North. The Chicago Bears played a disaster of a football game on Sunday and then pulled out a win thanks to a Roquan Smith interception late and a Cairo Santos game-winning field goal. The Minnesota Vikings went down big to the Detroit Lions and pulled off the comeback, so they're now 2-1 instead of the Lions being 2-1. And then, of course, the Green Bay Packers got an incredible break, and they won. You win the game, you win the game. But they got a break playing Tampa Bay without Godwin, Evans, and Jones. Tom Brady's top 3 receivers all out. And I do think Tampa Bay would have won if one of those 3 played, let alone all 3. And the Packers look like they suck, but they're also 2-1. The Bears look like they suck, but they're also 2-1. The Vikings defense looks like it sucks, and that's supposed to be, you know, I don't want to say it's supposed to be their strength because their offense is definitely their strength, but I think the Vikings are the deepest team. What's your takeaway from what we've seen from the NFC North so far?
Vikings are a little more surprisingly more than I expected. They've impressed me. I didn't give the Vikings enough credit going in. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's still early, 2-1. Last week I was thinking, we're back to the same old Vikings. Here we go again. I'm pretty sure the Vikings. I'm pretty sure the Vikings. What was the Vikings' one loss? Was that against the Packers?
Green Bay. Or no, not Green Bay. They lost to the Eagles, the only undefeated team.
That was primetime, right?
Yeah, it was.
It was prime time. Once again, prime time. You're facing a team above 500. I mean, he doesn't beat teams above 500 or in prime. I mean, this is just classic Kirk Cousins.
He did beat a team over 500. Green Bay.
Who was it? Green Bay was 1-1.
Okay.
It's above, not 500, above 500.
If you count that, then sure.
It is, though. It's true. When he plays a team, when their record is above 500, he doesn't win.
Okay,
you're right. So, I mean, we'll see. But the Bears are doing exactly what the Bears do. I mean, they were 3-point favorites against Houston. They won by 3. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They lost the games they should lose. They won the games they should win, except week 1. But I see the Bears schedule next week. They have a chance to go 3-1. They play the Giants.
Yeah,
I think they could beat the Giants.
I do too.
I got to be honest. I didn't look at the other teams, the Vikings, who they play, or the Packers, or the Lions. Who they play this week.
I have the Vikings schedule. I can pull up all the schedules while you talk.
But I mean, there's a chance that the Bears are first place at the end of this week. I don't know who the other teams they play.
I think the Vikings are going to kill the Saints. It's freaking in London, isn't it?
See, that game could go either way then.
It could go either way, but I got the Vikings, and then they play the Bears, and then they could have a 4-1 showdown with the Miami Dolphins 2 weeks from now.
Who do the Packers play?
The Green Bay Packers play. Hold on. The Green Bay Packers. Lions. I know the Packers have. Oh, They go Brady Belichick back-to-back weeks. They have New England, and then they travel to London to play the Giants on week 5, and then they come back to home to play the Jets at home. So they got the 2 New York teams in a row.
So
They're going to
that
start
Vikings game's probably at like 10 a.m., right?
8:30 a.m.
Oh, yeah,
Same,
even
same
earlier.
thing with the Packers the following week, and I will be in Wisconsin to watch it.
Aldo says Packers have a soft schedule.
They do. They have a very soft schedule, and that's kind of scaring me a little bit when I think about my pick for the Vikings to win the division. It doesn't take away how good I think the Vikings are, but they have the Pats. I think Green Bay will beat New England. I don't think New England's very good at all, especially with Mac Jones not playing. Then they got both New York teams, the Washington Commanders. They'll get killed by the Bills on Sunday Night Football on Week 8. The Lions, Cowboys, Titans, Eagles, Bears, Rams, Dolphins, Vikings, Lions. So like the Rams, Dolphins, Eagles, maybe the Cowboys, maybe the Titans, and the Bills are like their losses to me. But yeah, Green Bay and Minnesota, it's going to be a battle till the end. I do think they both make playoffs.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. I'd love to see the Bears run away with the division, but that's probably not going to happen. But hey, listen to me. So who do they play? The Vikings week 4, right? 5. Yeah.
Giants, Vikings. So week 5, yes.
If they win against the Giants, and then where's the game against the Vikings?
Minnesota.
If they somehow squeak a win out of Minnesota, I think there's a chance. I think how could you say they'd be 4-1, dude? And that means the Vikings would got it.
In my opinion, they got a weather break in week 1. They got killed by Green Bay and did not look good.
But they weren't supposed to.
No, but they looked horrid against Green Bay. They looked horrid against the Texans. And then Roquan Smith made a great play. He's one of the top 10 linebackers in the NFC. Justin Fields is awful, I think. I hope I'm wrong long term, but as of right now, he looks awful. And I know he has no weapons, but we've seen other quarterbacks that are supposed to be what Justin Fields is supposed to be make middling receivers look better than they are. Mm-hmm. You know, Herbert came in that first game when he replaced what was his name? Was it the Chargers quarterback who got hurt right before the game and they told Herbert he had to play? And Herbert looked good right away. Was it I just had his name and then I lost it.
I'll know it when I hear it.
I don't remember. Tyrod Taylor, right?
I don't know. That didn't sound familiar. I thought he was with the Colts.
I don't remember. But you know, when a lot of these guys step in, they look the part. Fields looks awful, and the Bears have a great running game. There's no doubt their running game has been so good. There was a great segment if you watch the Pat McAfee show on the Bears running game and how solid it is. Their defense is okay. Without a quarterback making plays, it's hard to see. And I'm not out on Justin Fields, but man, he just hasn't looked good. But I think the Giants and the Vikings are going to get him.
If they beat the Giants, then they already have reached Sports Illustrated's prediction of 3 wins this year.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people think they're not going to be that good. So they had them at 3-14. So my theory is if you already get your 3rd win, you're doing better than everybody thought you were. No matter how bad they look, if they're finding ways to win games, they're still doing better than everybody thought they would. Yes. Which is why it's like, we'll see. We'll see. I think the Bears defense is pretty good. And that's where if somehow they could beat the Vikings week 5. Because like I said, Bears defense pretty good. Now it's going to come down to their offense. But if their offense could break what a shaky Vikings defense it's looked so far, I don't know. You start out 4-1 and you never know. You never know.
I agree, and I think winning is everything. And Skokes brings up that he didn't want to bring up Justin today because it's been very disheartening so far. Good thing you brought it up, Vinny. I'm sorry. I don't want to be the negative Nancy, and I feel like Aldo probably thinks I'm the most negative Bears fan in the world, maybe even more than Mike North. But I say what I see. And what
I hear you. I get where you're coming
is
from.
asshole play from Justin Fields. He's been terrible. Like, bad isn't even like I wish he was bad because that would be an improvement over what he's been. The 2 interceptions. And maybe it's the coaching staff not trusting in him and the fact that he only has X amount of passes per game. Listen, I like what the defense has done so far. They in the first game in the monsoon, but the Texans suck. They're one of the only teams in the league worse on paper than the Bears. The Giants are right there with the Bears. I think the Giants, Falcons, Panthers, Bears, they're kind of in that, like, not the worst team in the league, but like maybe second, third, fourth worst team in the league range. And Kirk Cousins is better than people give him credit for, and he'll take advantage of all the rookie secondary that they've been using so far this season in Chicago. The Commanders, that's the Amazon Thursday Night Football game. I think anything could go in those types of games on a short week between two teams that are mid. I think New England will probably get them. I know I said New England sucks, but Bill Belichick will find a way to take advantage of the stinky Bears team. Then the Cowboys, I don't know what to make of the Cowboys. Is this new kid the deal for them now? Jerry Jones is saying he hopes there's a quarterback controversy because that'll mean they're winning football games. I don't know. The Cowboys suck. The Dolphins will kill them. I think they're going to lose to the Lions. They might beat the Falcons. Packers will kill them again. They might beat the Jets. The Eagles will kill them. So the NFC North is very interesting to me, but to me it will ultimately come down now that the Bears' schedule is going to get a little bit hard after the Giants game. The Packers and the Vikings.
We'll see.
Upset city in the NFL this week, eh?
Oh, yeah. I love it.
What's your take on that, even though we're all out of the survivor pool because of it?
I mean, the Jaguars.
They're good.
Maybe
they're
it's
good.
I don't know. I
they're
can't
good.
take it. I don't know.
I'm saying they're good. Saying they're good. Let's look at their schedule.
Chargers had a lot of people out.
I know, and Herbert's not himself either. Oh, they got the Eagles.
That's why I can't necessarily. That's why I can't necessarily. If they beat the Eagles, I'll say they're good.
How can you not?
Because
how can you not say they're good if they beat the Eagles?
Oh, right. But like right now, it's like.
And then it's the Texans.
It's the same.
Giants back to back to back.
It's even the same way I feel about the Bears. You feel about the Jaguars.
But they have a quarterback.
Kind of. I love Trevor Lawrence.
I love Fields.
But it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Dude.
I hope they win the division.
They're gonna lose to the Eagles, I think. Okay. I think the Eagles are.
Which was one of our picks of making the playoffs. We both had them in the playoffs.
Yes, but they're better than I thought.
I didn't have them winning the division. Or did I? Who's in their division?
I don't remember. The Giants. Oh, yeah, you probably did. The Giants. Oh, you might have picked the Cowboys. Giants, Cowboys.
I chose the Cowboys, I think.
No, I picked the Eagles.
But that was foolish of me because nobody's repeated as division champs in 17 seasons.
I know.
So why would I go with the Cowboys? That was just foolish of me.
Dude, I get what you're saying, but I picked the Eagles to win their division, but I have them as the lowest ranked division team. They might get the bye. I think they might be the best team in the NFC.
Wow.
If Tampa Bay, their defense is sick. Tampa. If Godwin, Evans, and Julio Jones can all play most of the season, it might be Tampa Bay. I have the Rams at 1. I'm not certain that the Rams are the 1 seed anymore. I've kind of pulled back on the Rams a little bit. They're 2-1. They look good. They're clearly the Super Bowl defending champion. Like they're a little sloppy. Like things just aren't perfect.
And that happens.
For them. It does happen. Allen Robinson sucks. He can't get open. But like I picked the Eagles to win the division. I think they're better than I thought they were. But if let's say the Eagles beat frickin' Jacksonville. Okay, now they're 2-2. Then you got the Texans. Jacksonville can win that game. The Colts. Maybe the Colts beating Kansas City changes things for them. But they looked brutal to start. And Kansas City should have smoked them. Kansas City lost because of a missed field goal, a muffed up fake field goal, an effed up punt.
I don't know why they faked the field goal in that
Special
situation.
teams effed over the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. They should have beaten the Colts. And I think Jacksonville can beat the Colts. Then they got the Giants. Then they got the Broncos. You know what I think of the Broncos. Russell Wilson and his receivers have all looked like dog crap, especially in the red zone. But their defense is so good.
They've looked like how I expected them to look.
But they're 2-1.
They are 2-1.
And they're tied for first in their division.
Yeah, that's true.
And their defense has been so good. They kind of remind me of the AFC version of Tampa. If their offense can just get a little healthy, figure it out, and their stupid asshole coach, Nathaniel Hackett, learns how to manage a clock, then I think the Broncos can meet my expectations. Chances are they're going to slightly fail my expectations, but exceed yours a little bit. I think that's kind of what the Broncos are starting to look like to me. You got to adjust your opinion as the season's going on.
Yeah, their offense just hasn't been that good.
No, and it's a first-year offense, first-year quarterback with a new team, first-year head coach, new offensive coordinator.
They had 5 points in the third quarter.
I know. They've only scored like 3 touchdowns this season.
Yeah, it's bad.
I know it's bad. If Russell Wilson can start to connect with these guys a little bit, and the defense continues to play as it is, I do think they can be a 10-win team. I think I had the Chiefs winning the division, but the Broncos being a wild card. You know, kind of the opposite of how I felt about the Vikings. But I don't know. I'm high on Jacksonville, though, and I was so curious to see your take on that.
I mean, I love Trevor Lawrence, so more props to him. I hope they win the division.
Yeah, they very well might. I'm overreacting to the Jaguars a little bit.
But that's fine.
There are some teams I underreact to. Like, I'm kind of underreacting to the Bengals. They very well should be 2-1 instead of 1-2. And now you have 2 juggernauts coming up, which you could easily be 1-4, probably more realistically 2-3. And then if you're 2-3 and the schedule eases up a little bit, you can see the Bengals, you know, go on a little bit of a 3-game, 4-game winning streak here. Then I think they become that division winner, you know, strong team that we all thought they were going to be. Mm-hmm. If I'm the Bengals, I'm rooting to split the 2 games coming up here, Miami and Baltimore. And that's a great game tomorrow night. Another thing before we get off the NFL, unless you have something else to present, was the Bills losing to those Dolphins. I told you the Dolphins had a chance.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are good. They made upgrades to their offensive line in the offseason, their defensive line in the offseason. And I remember your dad was like, well, who'd they add? I'm pretty bad with names. You know, for offensive and defensive linemen. But I don't know.
I'm not making any excuses. They won fair and square, but I want to see what would happen if they're both healthy.
Are you worried about the Bills being a little too Josh Allen focused?
No, not at all. I don't think that that loss doesn't scare me one bit. Still got him at 15-2. I think they have to be Josh Allen focused. I mean, this dude's going to have over 40 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you still?
Are you afraid of them being? Huh?
I'm a little afraid. Like if they lost Josh Allen, I'd be really worried.
Do I still think what?
They're the division winner?
Oh, easy. I still think they're going 15-2. I think they're going to have the best record in football.
All right. You still think 15-2, even though they got 1 loss?
Yeah. It's not going to change. They got to get 2 eventually.
That makes sense. Do you have anything else on the NFL?
No. It's kind of a boring week, in my opinion. Like, the games weren't like... Huh?
What, coming up or the one from...
No, this past week, it was all right. I mean, weeks 1 and 2 were better, in my opinion. More entertaining.
Yeah, I agree with that. I liked the Goat Bowl. I know I said my favorite game of the week 2 weeks ago involved Tom, but my favorite game this last week did too. Rodgers versus Brady. It was
low scoring, kind of boring.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot more boring than the Saints. And I know I said I like defensive battles. It was more Rodgers and Brady not having receivers to throw to,
Yeah.
rather than like the year before or the week before where it was like it wasn't because of lack of receivers. Tom had everybody available to him in that game. It was just like a hard-nosed game. This one was more kind of like mistakes, and so I agree with you. Tomorrow's game, though, I'm very excited for. Bengals.
Oh, I am too. That's
Like,
going to be a great game.
imagine
Yep.
telling you, though, in 2020 that, hey, in 3 years, you're going to be very excited for a Bengals-Dolphins Thursday night football game. Be
Yeah,
like,
I'd probably look at you like you're crazy.
yeah, you'd be like, and I'd be like, oh, you see that LSU kid? He's going to be the quarterback for the Bengals. Oh, Joe Burrow? Yeah, that guy. Oh, the Alabama kid, Tua Tagovailoa. He's going to start his career with the Miami Dolphins. He's going to struggle. Everyone's going to hate him because he's a left-handed quarterback and he looks funny while throwing the ball. And, I saw a video. Someone flipped a clip of a Tagovailoa like deep touchdown pass. They flipped it to make him look right-handed, and it looked like the prettiest ball you'll ever see. There's bias against left-handed quarterbacks because it's not as visually appealing. I absolutely believe that. And I think, is he the only left-handed quarterback active right now?
That I have no idea.
Michael Vick was left-handed too, I remember, but he ran more than he threw. But yeah, and the Dolphins are 12-1 in their last 13 games started by Tua.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what they could do this year. Off to a good start.
Maybe they'll both make the playoffs and play each other in an AFC divisional round or something.
I do think the Eagles will be the last undefeated team.
Yeah, I do too, because I think the Bengals are going to win this week. I think Philly beats Jacksonville this weekend. But if Jacksonville if they beat
I'd be a little surprised.
If they beat the Chargers, they can beat the Eagles. Just will they? I don't know. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. I don't think so. We'll see.
Frank, to the surprise of many going into the season, Taylor won Big Brother 24. What's your takeaway?
What a crazy year, huh? Like, normally with Big Brother, when it gets down to like the final 5, kind of got a feeling of who's going to win, right? I mean, we thought Michael was going to win. If Michael would have made it to the end, he would have won, I think, no doubt. Me personally. But you kind of get that feeling. But when you get down to like the final 5, you normally who's gonna win. I really didn't know, especially when you got to the final 3. You like know who's gonna win. But like this year was like a bit different. There were a lot of like turn of events, and I think Taylor really won over the jury with her speech. She gave like a tremendous speech. I think Monty made a mistake. I think Monty would have won against Turner, maybe, actually. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I think he made a monumental mistake because I didn't know it was a mistake until I heard it from the jury, though. It sounded so obvious that the jury was going to vote for Taylor if she made it, and that was before Monty made the decision. So I was like, uh-oh,
Part of me thinks Monty used his heart over his head. What do you think?
Katie says Monty made a mistake getting rid of Brittany. That's a very arguable thing to say as well.
I completely agree. I think she should have got. I think he should have kept Brittany. But I totally on that train. But then I was like, if he brings Brittany and Brittany wins, he's not going to bring Monty. She wouldn't bring Monty. So I think what his decision, like getting rid of Brittany, guaranteed him second because Turner was going to take him. Turner was going to take him, and Taylor was going to take him, and he obviously wins, takes himself. So he had a guaranteed path to second place at least. Where if he brings Brittany, now his odds change because Brittany would have in no shape have taken Monty whatsoever, no matter what. So I think that was kind of played into why he got rid of Brittany, even though from like a fan and watching it on TV, I'm like, he's stupid getting rid of Brittany. But then like thinking from his perspective, it kind of made a little more sense. You don't play for second, but if you get there, anything could happen.
I agree. it's you look at the veto or the head of household competition. CK points it out too. Brittany would not have won either of those two competitions against Monty, in my opinion.
Right.
None
No,
of
I
them.
agree. But what if she does?
Katie said he would have fallen off the weenies in 10 seconds.
I thought
is so true.
I thought they were gonna spray ketchup at him, mustard for sure. Like I was like blown that they didn't like spray anything at him.
Yeah, that's true. Like the one where they were hanging on the wall.
They always spray stuff.
Yeah.
I was shocked. But yeah, she would have fallen off pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean,
it was good. This was your first season, so how'd you like it?
I will be shocked if I like any other cast going forward more than this one.
See, that's what I think every year. Like we see the new cast, I'm like, oh, now I got to get into liking the cast again. And then you watch, you're like, all right, I'm getting the feels again.
Yeah, I get that. Like I already like the Survivor cast, but
oh yeah, how you liking that?
Oh yeah, Survivor's nice. I can't wait for it tonight. But like, is there ever going to be another Turner? You know, is there ever going to be somebody eliminated in week 1 and come on the show right away again? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
And Turner made a Twitter, so we'll see what we can do with that going forward. I wanted him to win so that we can have like the Big Brother champion on.
We could have Taylor.
We'll see, but like, will she do a favor for Pooch, who tried to get her out in week freaking 1?
Yeah, I don't know. Never know. Did you see she made a tweet that she said, "So Lay's, are we gonna make this a thing?" Like she's trying to get like a sponsorship from them.
That's funny. Hey, if she can get a lifetime supply of Lay's, we'll see. Katie says, "Please don't have Terrence." Would you? I would have.
I don't mind Terrence. I mean,
he was a dick.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of an idiot, but I mean, I'd have him, right?
He made it hella farther than I ever. There are 3 people.
I agree.
There are 3 people who made it way farther than I ever would have thought. Terrence, Brittany, and Alyssa. They all made it so far, and I think that'll change my mindset going into next year. There are always going to be some weaklings that make it through because of the
they
fact
just
that
float by.
Why would you get rid of them? There's no reason to if you don't have to.
Right.
You can also use like the weakest players as like your voting partners. You know what I'm saying? Like you can convince them to like vote your way.
Yeah. So it's part of the game. G said he made it as far as an older contestant, especially from seasons past. Yeah, usually the old guys are out right away. Honestly, everybody who's older, they usually get rid of week 1 or because it's like, I don't know, it's like the easy pick right off the bat. You don't have many relationships to start, so we'll just get rid of the older guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder why though.
G also says we should have the leftovers on. Imagine all the boxes we would have on all the mini boxes. I don't even know what the max is you could have, but that'd be.
I don't know the max. I've been on one with like 8 or 9 though. On
are all the boxes really tiny?
Yeah. There's like 4 each row. Where if we had the leftovers, we would need 9. But that'd be interesting. I mean, who would dominate that conversation? Probably Monty. Monty and Turner.
Maybe Michael.
Yeah, that's true. Michael. He was the only person Julie wanted to talk to after. He was just like so clearly the favorite of the jury, like the leader of the jury.
Yeah.
Because of how good he was this season. But I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
Frank, is there anything else you're watching this weekend that you're excited about to watch?
Yeah, I'm finally going to watch Thor, Love, and Thunder.
I'll be there.
So I'm excited about that. She-Hulk's been fantastic. Hell's Kitchen starts this week. I'm excited about that. Preseason hockey. That'll be fun. Survivor. I mean, there's a lot. I'm always watching a lot of different shows. I'm glad you started Survivor. I'm glad you're liking it. Yeah, it only gets better from here. Real Housewives Salt Lake City. Can't wait for that.
You're not gonna watch it. You're not gonna watch it.
Vinny was like, wait, did somebody say something?
I'm like, what? I'm watching it. I'm excited as hell. I'm excited as hell. I'm probably just as excited for that as Survivor.
It's like a lot of drama. I've watched
Yeah.
some Real Housewives. It's a
You
lot
would
of
like
drama.
You would like it.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it.
Yeah, I know you would. What about sports wise?
Preseason hockey, baseball, getting down to the nitty gritty in baseball. It's almost October, so yeah, that's basically it. Football. I mean, everything you'd expect normally.
Yeah, the Mets played the Braves, I believe, which is super exciting. It's probably the
Yeah.
series of the year. I'm very. Oh, how did I go all show without mentioning this? My favorite non-White Sox pitcher in the MLB is
Your favorite non-White Sox pitcher,
Yeah.
Jacob deGrom.
Nope. Come
Sure.
on, come on. I was at your house and he was getting the start against the White Sox last year, and I randomly bought.
VP, you here? Well, we lost VP. So now you guys just get to look at me the whole time and I get to talk to you guys. Well, how's it going, everybody? Skokes just finished Breaking Bad for the first time last week. I can't wait to watch that. I'm going to watch that after I finish Game of Thrones. Because it's like I can't have Game of Thrones going and that. It's just too much to watch for me, personally. Am I still live? Yeah. Yeah, there goes Vinny. I mean, it could have something to do with the popping that he was having, maybe some connection issues. I'm excited about that. I'm excited. I can't wait to watch Thor. Like I said, we got Vinny back. You left me hanging.
Am I popping again?
You were popping since Plan Z the whole time. I just haven't said anything. Like it's been really bad.
That's so annoying. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to figure that out. But Plan Z was connecting to my hotspot, and then my phone died, and then I got booted because of the hotspot going off. So now I'm back on the internet.
It was Poppy on the hotspot the whole time. I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna have to have that figured out by next week.
Because it's Poppy right now too.
But
yeah, Ohtani.
What about Ohtani?
Is that your favorite?
No. Tyler Glasnow.
Oh, that's right. He comes back.
He comes back today. I'm horny. I cannot wait to watch this brother pitch. And who is he pitching against? The Cleveland Guardians, because I can't escape that fucking team for my.
You're rooting for the Guardians, right?
I'm rooting for Glasnow to shit down their throat. I love Tyler Glasnow. I can't wait to watch him pitch. I'm already getting the lube all ready so I can watch him pitch. And
he loves glue.
Oh, I love Tyler Glasnow. He is the man, and he's going to pitch 10 this season. I all of a sudden, I'm probably going to root for the Rays when Tyler Glasnow pitches in the playoffs. Like, it's going to be Braves, Mariners. I'll root for the Mets. We'll see what the Yankees can do. And when Tyler Glasnow pitches for the Rays, I think if Glasnow was pitching for the Rays in Game 7 of the World Series, the only way I would root for him to lose. No, I don't think there's a way. I think the only way I would lose for Glasnow to lose in the playoffs would be as if it was against the White Sox.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. You know, if the playoffs started today, I'm pretty sure the Mariners would open up against the Guardians.
They would.
Go Mariners, VP.
Go. Let's go M's, baby.
I'd be so mad if the Guardians beat them.
The Guardians are going into the playoffs as a lot of people's perceived worst team making the playoffs, except they're like 20-3 in their last 23 games.
Yeah, they've been hot.
So, go ahead. Don't take Cleveland seriously. You'll have the same fate as the White Sox if you don't. So,
speaking of, when you mentioned if there's anything else to watch, did you see the Deadpool 3 announcement?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That was incredible.
Very funny, very interesting. Love Deadpool. We'll see if he ever makes his way into the MCU. Well,
yeah, he's going to. Did you not watch the video?
Yeah.
He
But, like-
says it in there.
Yeah, that's true. He did.
He said
You're talking about the
Deadpool's
video on the couch, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
He says in the video, he goes, Deadpool's first MCU appearance has to be special or whatever.
Yeah.
That movie will be part of the MCU.
Yeah. I wonder how they're gonna do it.
Probably some multiverse stuff, maybe.
Yeah, there's gonna have to be. But like, remember how the little bit of the symbiote found its way into Peter's universe? Yeah, so
They'll figure out something.
I'm still stuck.
And
go ahead. I was gonna tell you, I'm still stuck on Ant-Man with Katie.
Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
The one that comes out in November or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's the second longest Marvel movie in the franchise. It's 2 hours and 41 minutes.
It's longer than Infinity War?
It's almost 3 hours.
Because Endgame is 3 hours on the dot. It's like 3 hours and 1 minute.
I think Infinity War is like 237 or something, I want to say. And this is 241. It's 241.
That's insane. I would have never thought that.
No, it's going to be a grind. But my feelings for the first Black Panther. Wasn't a big fan of it.
Please.
This trailer looks fantastic. I think this is going to be an incredible movie.
If I could ban you from watching it, I would.
Nah, ban me from watching Black Panther. I don't have to watch that movie again. I don't like it. There's something about it. I've watched it so many times too.
I don't know. I love the character of Killmonger and the story with Oakland and the guy who gets his arm cut off.
I kind of like the ending of Black Panther a little bit.
Yeah, the ending is sick.
Like when they're playing basketball and he like looks up and he's like, "Who are you?" Right? That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then it sets up freaking Infinity War, like a big chunk of it.
I'm shocked that it's longer than Infinity War.
Yeah.
I'm stunned.
Infinity War goes by quickly. So
any good movie goes by quickly like that. Like Endgame didn't feel like 3 hours.
No.
When Endgame was over, I'm like, wait, it's over already?
Yeah, 3 hours later. And I remember we saw like an 11 o'clock show. That shit was over at like 2 a.m.
I loved it, though. I would do it again.
Oh, me too. That's one of my favorite nights ever.
Skoke said Black Panther 2 will be nuts. I can't agree. It looks incredible. Vinny needs to catch up on She-Hulk.
Yeah, I do. I really, really do.
Frank,
do you want to help people make some money?
No.
Frankie will help you make some money in this new segment that's not new at all. It's America's favorite podcast segment of the week, Breaking Bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Where's my money, bitch?
Breaking Bets is canceled this week. Thank you. And we're going to send it over to...
Why, did you go 0-4 last week?
No, I probably go at like 1-3 or 2-3. It depends. I don't know. I didn't sweep the board. I know that.
Well, positive vibes only. Lay it on me.
I only got 2 picks this week because I really like these 2 picks and I didn't want to like spoil them. So like, are you laughing because I said peaks?
Yeah.
The first one, White Sox at Twins VP.
Stop.
Cueto versus Winder. Sox have lost 7 in a row. What are they doing, VP? Come on. Talk to me here before I get to my pick.
They suck.
You're the White Sox guy.
They gave up. No, I know I'm the White Sox. They gave up. They just flat out gave up.
Cueto pitching 3.15 ERA. Winder 4.20 ERA. Twins are at home. They've been scoring a lot of runs. The White Sox have lost 7 in a row. They have not been scoring a lot of runs. They have 3 runs in their past 3 games. This just seems like a spot where the Twins win. Like you said, they gave up. They look sluggish. Twins money line minus 112, I think, is a fairly good pick. But this other pick, this pick's weird, really funky. When you see a line that's fishy, it's often because there's a reason for that. The Yankees are playing the Blue Jays, right? Cole's on the mound against Mitch White. Mitch White stinks. He's 1-6 and a 5.12 ERA. His ERA is over, and he's going up against Garrett Cole. And the New York Yankees are just sliver of a favorite. I'm taking the Blue Jays. I'm fading Garrett Cole. You take the Blue Jays at plus 107. It's very weird. Why? Mitch White stinks. This line should be like the Yankees should be like minus 180 or minus 200.
They
shouldn't be
clinched
minus,
yesterday.
huh?
They clinched yesterday. Are they all
Maybe that's
hungover?
the reason. Maybe they're resting some players. It
Yeah.
could be.
They're probably all
So
hungover. A Judge will play.
that's fine. Yeah, whatever. They might be hungover. So Blue Jays money line. I think this is free money to take at plus value because it's just weird. Something's just really off with this line. I just don't understand it. Maybe they're drunk. Maybe they're gonna go out there and be woozy and spin around when they hit the ball. I don't know. It's just really weird. I'm being dead serious right now. I highly encourage taking the Blue Jays with this pick. You don't see lines like this happen every day. So those are my picks for you. Mitch White stinks.
I'm
Blue
just
Jays.
curious if the lineups came out. Like
They weren't when I checked because they don't come out that early when I checked this morning. But it's a very when you have your ace on the mound, you have Garrett Cole on the mound, who's had a pretty good year. 3.49 ERA, 12-7. Not a bad year. And he got one of the best teams in the league. Huh?
Not lately, though.
Not lately, though, but the line should be higher than what it is. Especially when you got a guy with a 5.12 ERA on the mound who struggles to get wins, and his team just doesn't win for him. It's really weird line. I like the Blue Jays money line there.
That is a weird line. I'm looking to see if the phone dead again.
And I'll text you throughout, win or lose, whether the Yankees win or lose. I'll text you and I'll be like, yeah, I was wrong, or see, I told you so. We'll see. It's just really weird.
That's wild. Well, Frankie's breaking bets, a little interesting this week. I will keep tabs on that Yankee game. Of course, I watched a lot of the early parts of the Yankee game yesterday on my computer because Aaron Judge is just one home run away.
He didn't get it yet, right?
No, he's one away from tying Roger Maris's home run, American League home run record, 2 from breaking it. I do think he's going to do it, but he's in a slump, clearly. A home run slump.
I was watching Clemson and Wake Forest this weekend, and they, like you said, they went in between every at-bat. They would put it on the screen, so that was interesting. But, yeah, he's been in a slump.
Yeah,
he's in the slump I thought Albert Pujols was going to be in and not get it. Yeah, now maybe Aaron Judge is not going to get it.
Pujols getting it was a lock.
We thought Judge getting it's a lock.
Yeah, well, I still kind of think that, but if he goes 2 or 3 more games without it, I'm going to start to be like, eh. But, like, he just needs to do it. And then if he gets 62, he'll probably end with like 63, 64, I would think.
Do it.
Judge is incredible. He's going to win the MVP. I mean, it's hard to beat Ohtani in an MVP race in a year where he's got an ERA under 3 and 30-something home runs. You would think that guy wins the MVP every year. Judge's OPS is over 1,100.
Yeah, that's wild.
The only players I ever remember having an OPS over 1,000 is, I believe it's Mookie Betts and then Mike Trout twice, and now Aaron Judge. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason 60 years have gone by without anybody hitting 60 home runs.
It's wild
in the American League.
It is. It's honestly crazy.
Yeah. Well, we will have recaps of it all tomorrow on Crosstown Crosstalk. You can make sure you check that out at 2 p.m. You can make sure you read all of Frankie Mueller's work via @Trigger's website, and he tweets and retweets all his stuff at the King Bean on Twitter. Of course, I'm doing all the Chicago sports teams, wrapping up the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox 2020 seasons, and already well into the 2022 Chicago Bears season. And, of course, the New Jersey Devils and the Chicago Blackhawks, covering them for the Barroom Network, of course, the Let's Go Devils podcast, doing the pregame show for each and every Devils game, all the work on DeWindyCity.com and PucksandPitchforks.com. You can check it all out. It's all retweeted and tweeted at Vinny Parisi. Make sure you check it all out. Frank, you got anything left before we let the people go?
Do it.
Hello there.
Really funny, actually, really quick before we go. We went to Spirit Halloween the other day, and just sitting there randomly was a Palpatine mask just hanging up. Yeah, I think there's just one just chilling there. So the whole do it reminded me of just there the other. I was like, why is this here? Like my
What?
jaw hit the floor. Like I literally like mouth was open. I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is just chilling here."
What version of Palpatine?
Like the evil one.
Like where his face is all fucked up?
Yeah,
Oh, that's funny. I don't. That Palpatine
with the
doesn't-
hood up. It had the hood.
Oh,
up
that's
and, like,
funny. That Palpatine doesn't say "do it."
no, it's the normal Palpatine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right before Anakin takes out Count Dooku, right?
Yeah.
Do it.
Uh-huh. But I was like, what are the odds? Like, this is just chilling here. Like, they didn't have a Darth Vader mask. They had a freaking Palpatine mask.
Oh, that's banana. That's because all the Darth Vader masks were bought.
Probably.
Nobody goes in looking for a Palpatine mask. Hey, you know who I want to be for Halloween? The freaking Emperor.
I mean, don't tempt me.
That's funny. I would shit my pants. You bought it, didn't you?
I'm not saying it.
Did you buy it?
I'm not saying. I literally.
Tell me if you bought it.
I didn't buy it.
Did you buy it?
I didn't buy
You
it.
freaking bought it. I know.
I didn't buy it.
You saw $30. I can afford that.
I didn't buy it.
You fucking bought it. I know your ass is gonna show up somewhere around Halloween season, and you're gonna be wearing a black robe, and you're gonna walk in and go, "Do it."
That would be funny, huh?
That would be really funny. Well, that's our show. I hope everybody enjoyed the random conversation about Palpatine masks and Big Brother and NFC North football analysis, the Central Division preview where we went through each and every team. If you're just tuning in live, make sure you either rewatch it back on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitch, Twitter, anywhere else in the world you could watch podcasts. Of course, we're also on Apple and Spotify talking about all of our favorite things. Thank you very much to Tab Bamford of Bleacher Nation for joining us to talk Chicago Blackhawks hockey in the first period. It was a lot of fun. We love Tab. He's a second-time guest now. He will be on again in the future. I now officially consider him a friend of the program. It was a lot of fun to have him. Frank, are there any final words before we let the people out of here?
No, just that this is just really random too. But like, if you've been trying to watch on Twitch, StreamYard hasn't been streaming to Twitch. There's like an outage right now. So just people who are, I don't know, they're gonna be like, "Why? I always watch on Twitch. There wasn't a week you didn't have a show this week." well, that's
now
fine.
that I know, that's actually a good thing to know, just in case.
So,
But I feel like Twitch is probably our least common
probably, but just
platform.
there was like a huge notice today that's saying like they were down on Twitch. So,
Oh, okay. Well, shout out Twitch. Frankie stopped streaming on Twitch, which makes my 2 a.m. adventures a lot less entertaining.
We'll get back.
I'm rooting for Frankie to get back. Bring Frankie back to Twitch ASAP. Hopefully this motivates him. You finally get to freaking partner too, and then you stop. Like what?
Affiliate, but yeah, partner would be sick because there's a partner.
Affiliate. Are you still there?
Yeah, you stay there. I'm pretty sure you stay there. I hope you stay there.
You should look into that. I want to get back into that. That was fun.
I am. It was fun. Yeah, I'll get back in that. No, we'll do it. We'll get there.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Make sure you follow @TheKingBean on Twitter. I'm @Vinny Parisi on Twitter. As always, make sure you watch your favorite hockey teams. Make sure you tune into the rest of the good shows on the Barroom Network starting tomorrow with me on Crosstown Crosstalk at 2 p.m. As always, thank you for listening.
Another happy landing.